All right. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, depending of where you're joining. Can you confirm you can all hear me right? We're gonna just like wait a couple of minutes for everyone to be able to join. So please get yourself comfortable. This one, I know when I'm going to start the webinar. I actually don't know when I'm going to stop. So, I'm going to go as hard as I can, sharing a lot of crazy example and answer as many questions as possible until I'm too tired and then we call it a day. But so yeah, get yourself comfortable, introduce yourself in the chat. It's going to be a really good one. I don't know how many of you attended like the previous version, but this one is on another level. Really wanted to go deep in every presentation. And also I'm going to do a live demo of one of our latest workflow, which I'm pretty excited to share with you guys. So yeah, I'm going to grab myself a little bit of water, just like being ready. And we're going to start it in a couple of minutes. So let's get this chat on fire. I want to see, like maximum energy because like I say, I committed to 2 hours minimum, but I might go for 3. So let's get crazy today. Best way to start the year. See you in a bit, guys. I don't know why I cannot share audio, so I wanted to have hyped music and stuff like that, but it's not working right now. So yeah, don't worry, you're gonna have the audio when I'm gonna start the presentation. All right. What's up, everyone? I never did a Twitch stream in my life, but I feel that, every single time we're kind of like breaking Zoom a little bit to have a little bit of challenge because I don't think it's meant to have, such a large amount of people. Right now, we're like almost 3,000 people. What's up, Ben? Shout out to my amazing creative producer, always here to helping us turning this experience into like a next level value for you guys. All right, people from all over the place. It's moving too fast. I cannot process. I don't know how people, do this on Twitch. If you have like any tips, because I might be like too old to like fully understand how this whole thing works. But so cool to see you. Wow, people from Sydney, London, Germany. Let's go. Super exciting. Is it like most of you guys the first time joining a webinar like this, or you're just like coming back again? First time, first time. Yep, first time. Awesome. So like I say, this is kind of like a different format. Like normally I do 60 minutes, but if you attended the previous webinar, I always ending up extending, to like 90 minutes just because there is like so many questions. And I really like to like take the time, like once a month to engage with you guys, sharing everything we learn. It's kind of like interesting exercise for us as well, because like, it's not like always like the same presentation. So certain elements or similar, but because things are like changing on almost on a weekly basis in AI space. It's like always like new stuff. So really trying to take like as much time as possible in like prepping this session to being able to really showing you the latest and what we can do. So I think like it's like 6 minutes past one. You guys are crazy. How many? Yeah, it's 3,000 people are there already. We had over 9,000 signups for this one. I'm going to kind of like get started and just get through, like all the logistic and like the agenda for today's session. Ben, we're good to go. Awesome. So yeah, let's start with today's agenda. Like I say, the time is not necessarily, like what I'm ending up doing here, but basically the structure for today's presentation, I want to start with like an introduction and a welcome remarks and something that I actually added for this session to kind of like giving you as much background as possible of who I am as a founder and creative director, what we've been doing on the studio side and how we're ending up like using AI. Then there is this like new section that I did for the first time for my keynote at the Artist and the Machine in Los Angeles a couple of months ago. And it's called Everyone Hates AI. And I think that's, like the elephant in the room. That's something that a lot of people are still, like debating. Is it ethics? Can I use AI? Am I killing the planet? I'm not going to get in like all the environmental side of things. I might do that for like the next one. But just again, kind of like taking a pulse of like the current creative landscape, how people are feeling about AI and kind of like, what's previous era, in the creative world can teach us from like what's coming next. Then I'm going to focus on like why AI is no longer optional. I think this is like a very important stuff. We started 3 years ago. We did our very first campaign for Paris Saint-Germain, Nike, kind of like early on. It was very experimental at this stage, and I'm going to share more about it. But I think now in 2026, like no matter if you like it or not, like AI is everywhere and soon will be in like every single software we use as a creative. And yes, we can still see amazing story like the Intermarché commercial or, like the Apple intro being like fully analog. We're going to talk about that today as well. I'm not saying that analog work will disappear. I'm just saying that, it's still going to be, like a minority. And then the focus will be, how brands and agency can produce more without the typical limitation of traditional production. Then I will kind of like break down, how we build real campaigns with AI in the studio, kind of like the main steps. And like I say, for the very first time, I will do a live demo. So live demo is not, I'm not going to build like, an entirely campaign beginning to end, because that's no like really how it works. But I wanted to show you like an actual workflow and like the key steps and components and how efficient we are getting already today in terms of like the capability to create like good stuff and why there is, again, no argument or in my opinion, there is no future where anyone is saying that we're not going to go the AI route for like producing this type of campaigns. On the live demo, I don't want to spoil, the platform because we have like a lot of good stuff to announce with them. But again, I want to like break this down. I want to take the time. I want to show you again, like not just like the steps, not the magic formula, but kind of like how do we work with it and if I would be curious actually to see in the chat how many people feel like scared or excited or they think that this is bullshit and we should only go on a set with a camera. So that kind of fits. I'm going to keep the live Q&A, most of the live Q&A toward the end. Oh, and I missed the most important. If you're here today is because we have Masters of AI. I'm the co-founder of Masters of AI as well, our education platform. Full disclosure, I'm not shy that we're going to present what the platform is about, what the program looks like, because we've been working crazy for the past couple of months on like the new curriculum. So I want to share this with you. And I also want to share like our new like offering and think that, you guys will be able to get access because you're showing up today. So yeah, spoiler alert, we're going to talk about Masters of AI as well. And then we're going to have the live Q&A. Live Q&A are super fun. Sometimes we have technical difficulty with Zoom, but the goal is to having you asking the question in the chat if you want, but also being able to come on camera turn on your mic, and then introduce yourself and ask your question. Just because like way more interactive, and after a little bit, I can get tired about just talking to myself or talking to the screen. So that's something that we're going to keep mostly for the end. There is maybe certain step in between where we're gonna have like one or two people to come in if we're seeing like a lot of question. So like be sure that you drop your question in the chat as we're getting through the presentation, because like I just explained, we're gonna cover a lot of different area, and you might have questions that are very on the production side, questions that are more onto the opportunity and the future of like creative for AI, like all of these different stuff. Please like fire your question. To be honest, I'm really trying to maintain like the monthly rhythm, but it's not like something certain that with like all the work on the Masters of AI and the studio side, I'm going to be able to do this type of session every single month. So I want to do it again, and I'm really going to do my best. But really enjoy this moment. Stay focused, take notes, do everything, and then ask as many questions as you want, because that's kind of like the part that excites me the most in this process. And so, yeah, let's kind of like get through like a couple of like logistic items. So like I say, I want you to engage in the Q&A. That the whole purpose of that, if it wasn't to make it interactive, I would just, like record a 20 minutes presentation and sharing it. Like the goal here is like having context, being sure that we're like focused in the moment, and you can engage in the Q&A section. The second part is like react in real time, like emojis, like clapping hands, all this stuff, they help me like realizing if I'm boring you guys or if you're actually having a good time. So please do it and don't be shy about it. Be present and respectful, very important. Same thing is the chat. I think we're like one of the only platform to like all the webinar and having everyone able to like, send message and doing all these different things. Very important. Like we want you guys to, be respectful of myself, of the team, of everyone else. If you have not takers, try to like remove them because they're actually holding places for other people in the chat. So we want to be sure that you can remove the bot.
Chat cannot see other people's messages, only hosts and panelists.
In everyone? Oh, okay, maybe that's here. 1 second. So apparently we have just something that we need to change in the chat setting. I think might be here. Yeah, exactly. Panelists, everyone. Okay. And then attendees. Okay. So now we should be done. That's why you want producer in your camps. You don't want to be alone running this. All right. It's a party, let's fucking go. Let's blow up these things. And I apologize already if I use a lot of F word and shit word in the presentation. That's kind of like my thing. I'm trying to improve that. I don't want to finish like my career like Gary V and, being cursing all the time. So let's see how it goes. Yeah, no spam or self-promotion. This is fine. You guys can put the chat on fires, but again, just like copying like link or like whatever, it's just like so annoying, right? It's like everyone is here to engage, we're having this conversation. We're putting a lot of effort into that. So like, please, like no promotion of like, we're using that platform, we're using this, like we can talk about this in the question, but don't spam the chat because as you can see, it's already on fire, right? So we're really going to make sure that we get all the question, Dialine. All right, I lost one of my window doing the change. Here we go. All right, no replay and no rewind on this one. Again, this is, mostly because you guys are showing up and, we just don't want to like record this type of content also because it's changing all the time. So it's like 2 months from now, maybe things will be slightly different. So we want to be sure that all these things stay, in the moment. I'm going to have a crazy announcement towards the end of this video about how we are taking, this like in the moment experience to the next level as well. Without further ado, my name is Benjamin Benichou. By the time I took this picture, I didn't have a beard, but this is my new 2026 look. And so, in case you didn't know, I'm French. That's why I have my accent. But I've been living in the States for the past 10 years. I'm not going to talk too much about my life before AI, but I really starting to digging into it about like 3 years ago. But before that, I have a 20 years career in advertising, content production, media, all the different stuff. So that's something as well that's important, and shout out to the haters. But, I didn't start my career with AI. For me, it's like, I've been doing this for so long, and I know how much it's like challenging when you work on a specific idea or specific project for your clients. And because of the budget or the timeline or just overall capabilities, you're not able to bring this idea to life. When AI really started to emerge, I was so excited about, being able to test ideas that I never had a chance to bring to the table, and seeing like, how we can use AI not as an excuse for like poor crafted content, but really as the new render engine. If you don't follow me, you can follow me already on Instagram. Shoot me a DM. If you're reposting content, tag us. I'm gonna, like reshare it. Let's make this pop. And then, like I say, 20 years running our own agency, being a founder of a studio. And then officially 6 months ago, we launched 311 Labs. And so 311 Labs is a dedicated AI studio and production company where we actually work for real brands. And one thing that is important here is like not only we wanted to not just do spec ads, we wanted to work with brands and like the best brand in their category, because we knew that everyone can create like cool images or cool spec ads. When you work with a client on a brief, it's like a totally different story. So fairly early on, we work with like real brand on real brief. And when I say 3 years ago, it was extremely like challenging to do something that looks cool and sharp. On the business side, in 6 months where we launched the studio, we closed 1.5 million in business. But besides just the money, because some people can say like this is huge, some people can say like this is nothing. I think for me there is two elements here that were super important. The first one was the speed. Like, I've been doing services and agency business for like a very long time. That's the type of stuff that normally would take, like two years, I would say, to getting there. So here it was like, way faster because this is a hot category and because everyone is looking for, like talent that are able to deliver. Another thing that is very important that I don't think anyone is talking about is when you are creative and you run, like photography or like video production, if you work on a piece of content, like the margin you keep as a creative, usually around 20%. If you're doing like a really, good job and your organization is like pretty set up on production, meaning the vast majority of the money you generate is like going to a bunch of, like production and, travel and like all these bullshits. That's another things too that I feel is like, important to keep in mind when people are like, AI will kill creativity, no more studio anymore. On our side, what we're seeing is like, because we can capture more of the value and we can do more projects, then we have the capability to actually hire more creatives and the most amazing and talented people in their category. So we will always need a talented, like producer. We will always need people, that are like director, writer, like all these different things still exist in an AI world. What is exciting is before, only if you were one of the big agency, you have the money to like hire the best talents. I think this is actually shifting entirely. And as a studio, I believe we can build, like an Avengers team of creative using AI as a way to just like power more amazing content. And these are like example from like, over a year ago, between like 2 years and 1 year ago. And here, as you can see, it was before Nano Banana Pro, but the goal for us was always, we wanted to create images that the fact that we use AI wasn't like an excuse for poor crafted visual. And we started with still images because back then, again, it was, like video wasn't even a consideration. But also what it was important was we wanted models that doesn't look like AI. We wanted to be like true to the brand DNA and guideline and the product integration. That's kind of like what also I feel make us like pretty unique, even for the past 6 months, is is like everyone was struggling with consistency, product integration, and just like creating cool campaigns at all. We were like, one of the studio where like when Nike and Adidas and all these different brands needed, like expert in the field, not just technical experts, but people that also understand deeply, why this image looks great, why this is like a good idea for Lacoste and, maybe not a good idea for Gymshark, like all the different things, super important. And I think having this background truly allowed us to like moving extremely fast in the space. All right, like I say, let's start with like a little introduction. How are we feeling there? Like all good? Let's get the chat popping. Let's go, let's go. All right, introduction. I love this one. This is like a new addition. Everyone hates AI. So that's something interesting. How many people agree on this one? Like no matter you use AI, you didn't use AI, but just kind of like the overall vibe of like, it's kind of like feels that even if you do the most amazing shit, people will always find a way to kind of like put you down. And I'm not going to share you this example here today, but when I did this first version of the keynote, I was sharing the project we did for Hot Topic, which was like a really cute series of like short anime for Baby 3, which is kind of like a knockoff of Labubu. And we were so happy about the output. Like we spent a lot of time like building like the narrative, the effects, and creating this like AI stop motion vibe. I have a 5-year-old daughter. When I show her the video, she loved it. And I was like, okay, like I think we want to do something. The minute we posted it, the client loved it too. The minute we posted it, we get hundreds of, like anti-AI comments, which was, like something that really get me thinking again is like, is it like a problem with like the craft? Is it the tool we're using? Like what's going on with this fucking, like anti-AI stuff? Because it can feel like unfair. Like I understand the feeling, I understand the emotion, but it's also just, like what the fuck, why when we do that, we care so much about the way we did it. And you probably heard about this punchline. I have like a full collection of it. But Guillermo del Toro say, I would rather die than use generative AI. And I think that's like over dramatic. I think that's crazy. But again, I don't think it's stupidity. I think this is fear combined with identity and craft. And this is the exact reaction. This exact reaction like happened before. Like this is not the first time. And I don't know how much guys, like, I mean, obviously I've been doing this for 20 years. I'm 40 years old. I don't know what kind of like the age range in the room here. But I did like some research because I was so intrigued to kind of like, discover like when this type of like situation happened. And you can actually find a lot of example. I discovered that, when synthesizer happen in music, in the UK, they have like massive protest and strike, it's going to call music. We're not going to do music anymore. But then on like something like closer to her, I saw like the CGI revolution was probably like the most interesting part. And the CGI revolution like didn't happen, like 5 years ago. Like it's something that's starting in the 70s. And for like between the 70s and the 90s, and I'm going to share some example that I really like, we saw this kind of like crazy evolution. But at the beginning, like any innovation, people were saying that it was ugly, that it was mechanical, limited, all the traditional animators, were losing it when this shit was happening. And I actually found this image that I think is like the most fire image of a protest ever, of like in the 70s when like the Disney animator like went on a strike. By the way, I think they have like the most, like the sickest flow ever, and the sign are like way cooler than any protest I ever been in France, because we do like going on a good strike. And the message here was like very interesting because very similar to AI. It was like CGI will kill animation. Like that was the thing. It wasn't necessarily like for like advertising, but it was like as a whole, like this new technology will destroy everything. And I want to show you like 3 examples because again, I feel that now I totally understand, when I'm showing, certain stuff to like a friend photographer or director, like I can understand why they freak out. But again, back then, that was the first, like AI film, one of the very early experimentation from the University of Utah. I think it's so cool. The video is actually quite long, and they show a lot of the things with like the match of like the voice and everything. But again, this is like what people were like losing their shit on back then, right? It wasn't like something super impressive, or just like a lot of these like early things were actually not made by Creative, which is very similar than AI. Early on, all this CGI, stage was like mostly engineers, like people that were excited about the technology, which again, I don't want to offend any engineer in a room right now, but usually they don't have the most amazing taste. And I kind of like seeing the same thing with AI, right? It's like the first wave, extremely technical, like you needed to really enjoy building workflows, doing all these different things. And usually that's not necessarily the skills that, us creative, we have. This is like the evolution. I don't have the audio, but like, trust me, this is so good. And then when you think that this was like 74, like 10 years later, this is like one of the early Pixar shorts. I recommend you check this out on YouTube if you never watch it. It's very interesting. So it was 1984, 10 years of evolution between like the first one and this. But if you look it, like not crop like this preview, you will see that, it's evolved a lot, creative starting to like use the technology, but you have like so much issues, with like, everything is on the focus, like the lighting, the shadow, all these different things were not like working properly, which again sounds very familiar with the type of feedback we're hearing all the time, less and less now, but like early on when we were, delivering the type of images that I show you, like people were like arguing about the shadow and the light and all these things. And just like, like it's okay, it's like it's moving, it's evolving. And that was the case here. And again, if we kind of like, now we started to like evolve more. This is, the short that kind of like lead to the introduction of PixArt. I feel this is like one of the most amazing piece of content because there is no camera movement, there is no background, but it's like, how do you kind of like take, back then, like where the technology were and bring emotion and bring storytelling, because if you watch this whole thing, this is like basically, like the daddy lamp, trying to teach the kids and, having this stuff. There is no dialogue. There is no human being because, again, you get like uncanny valley right away. It's just like a super smart concept and its execution. And then, of course, the texture and the lighting, starting to get better. And so, what happens there, like between, like this era, again, is like it's not like nothing happened and AI will not impact anything because back then, we have hundreds of 2D animators that lost their job. So it was like a real thing. And then we had entire studio shutting down. I think Disney Florida shut down in like 2004, something like this. And then a lot of skills became obsolete, like you have to like learn different things. You have to learn like different tools. But besides all this, let's call it collateral damage, that I'm totally open to talk about because I do believe that this will like continue with like AI, maybe not in a, like a, as dramatic way as like people thinking that we're all going to lose job and then robots will replace us in the next 10 years. But when you put this aside, what this evolution gave us is Toy Story. How many Toy Story fan in the room? Well, I'm just like zipping a little bit of tea. Yeah. And I don't know if you guys watched like the first one recently. Like they have number five, I think, coming up soon, which will be interesting. But also like Toy Story one, I feel like didn't age at all, right? Like you can still watch it today. It's like for me, like one of these most amazing, piece of content. And again, without this evolution in the technology, like this wouldn't have been, like possible, right? And so, my conclusion here is pretty much like CGI didn't kill animation. There is like two elements. I think like CGI enable a lot of things that were not possible before. So like CGI full feature film, like all the VFX from like Tron all the way to the Avengers, like all these different things only possible because the computer were helping amazing creative to kind of like get the story together. And then I'm not even getting started on like the whole video game industry, right? Like what's enabled, GTA 6 is coming up finally. Let's pray they're not going to let us down. But that's so, again, interesting. Like, yes, people lose their job. People have to like change job. Then on the other side, you saw like an entire new like category and industry evolving and coming up. And then the reality is like I don't think like hand-drawn films are like dead at all, right? There is still animator, right? Maybe this is not like the vast majority of the content that is being putting out there, but there is still people doing that. I think studio like Ghibli, they're probably going to be there forever, and I really hope they do, because again, it's not just like a conversation about like CGI versus traditional or like AI versus analog. Is like there is like room for everything when you think about like the content and commercial space. Historically it's always about like efficiency and how you can like create more with in a most efficient way, but not at the detriment of the story. And so, like I say, for me, CGI didn't kill the animation; it expanded it. And in general, again, new tools don't erase craft; they change who wins, right? So it's kind of like you have like a new approach now. There is new studio coming up. Probably without this technology revolution, like Steve Jobs back then wouldn't have purchased Pixar, right, from Lucasfilm, and all these like different things are just like the enabler was this evolution in the technology. So now I want to ask one question to everyone. What's different this time? Like, what do you think is like different, fundamentally from like the CGI revolution versus the AI revolution? Faster, speed, scale, access, compute. Oh my God, I'm trying to see, like my brain cannot follow. Dude, it's crazy. I'm gonna try to find the features that kind of like slow down. But yeah, I think like at least for me, and there is like few things, like speed is like definitely the biggest change. Because if we look at CGI evolution, like it took 20 to 30 years for like the very first experiments. And when I was looking like year by year, the piece of content and the evolution is like you were taking like 1 year to get to like the next phase of like quality and rendering and adoption. If we look at AI, Midjourney V1 to photorealism and like video from like the very famous like Will Smith one merging with the pasta to stuff that are actually usable in production, like we're talking about 3 years. So it's moving extremely fast. And another thing too that I think is important is the fact that like CGI kind of like targeted first like animator, which were still like probably like a small portion of like the creative industry. I feel with AI now it's like a little bit bigger, because photography and motion and like all this stuff kind of like impact more people. And when you see the speed of evolution on like still images, for example, I'm sorry again if there's like a lot of photographer in the room, but it's very hard to imagine a world in the near future when it's still more valuable to send a photographer on set instead of like using like AI to kind of like produce the campaign. Still gonna happen, still gonna have like the top 0.1% of brands that want to go like full analog. But again, I also believe that the most amazing photographer, they are not amazing photographer but because they know how to press a button on the camera. Like they're amazing photographer because they have a vision, like a creative direction. They kind of like do the whole thing. They're not just like showing up and they know how to use the camera. Because if that was the case, I think there is way more people that know how to use a camera that there is like great photographer. So again, my intuition here, and this is kind of like the conversation we're seeing a lot, is my most talented friend photographer, they're learning AI or they're highly considering it, because again it's like being able to do shit without the struggle of like traditional production. Let me show you this like as a reminder for everyone. So there was like Midjourney V1. I was pretty excited when I first like put a prompt, generated an image, but I think you cannot really tell what you're looking at. I still believe that there is some like artistic value into it, but maybe like not totally usable in a real campaign. And then for like the past year, let's say, like it improved a lot, but not just with Midjourney, but the other platform, we're still getting this kind of like, like AI generation vibe, right? Like the color grading, like the body proportion, all these different things. Yes, Nano Banana Pro and all these new models like improve a lot in this sense. But that was like also like a problem, because like you couldn't really go full on a campaign if it's kind of like looks, like too AI. And that was the thing that we were doing like already before Nano Banana Pro, right? So like our goal, like I say, was like, I don't want something that my model looks like a 12 years old with like weird body proportion. I personally hate sepia as like a treatment. So the goal here was all right. All the notification in the chat, Ben, is because the note takers are being taken out. I'm seeing a lot. Just like being sure you remove your note taker, please, on the call. It's kind of like spamming the chat, and also it's like blocking seats for people trying to join. And but yeah, to like going back on this, it was like always about telling the story using AI to do that. That's why we don't believe that AI is a style. Like that's another like misconception I feel, and it's still to this day we have brands or agency coming to us and they want like the AI, slop like style or whatever, like for us, again, I mean, we're not too interested into that. Like, obviously we know how to make AI slop, like it's not the most difficult things to figuring out. But for us, is really using AI as the production engine, right? It's like same thing as like rendering like 3D before. Now we use AI in the process. And I'm kind of like going to show you, how we move and why this is no longer optional. How do we feel, guys? 30 minutes in. Let's go. Please, no, like Instagram, link and everything. Like you can do that on the side. Okay, cool. Like stay there. It's just like the beginning. I have a lot of stuff. I'm always debating, like, keeping it short, but also for this one, I just like wanted to go like all in and like take the time, to like really unfold like or thinking the background and like what we're doing and how we're doing it. So I really hope you guys enjoy this part. So I think the most important part too is like how we went from experiment to full campaign production. I wanted to break down the timeline with a few examples. So like I say, 2023, this is where we started. If you've been following me for a while, and if you don't, that's totally fine. I don't hate you, but you need to change that really quick. My very first piece of content that went viral were this series of like Nike Impossible Store, posting it on LinkedIn, like 3 years exactly ago, then on Instagram, and kind of like, take off right away. But for like the whole year after that, it was already like generating like impressive stuff. So there are like generation from 2023, right? It was like super impressive and interesting, and you can still tell a story. But again, on like a video standpoint, like I say, it was like impressive but like unreliable. And so basically, we were able, and I was able because I was alone back then, to create like great images, but very hard for consistency. And so back then, the tricks was like if you generate a lot of volume, you're going to be able to curate like a series that makes sense, right? And so I think that one of the reasons people are starting to like really fuck with my work is because it wasn't just like random stuff where like three images together, they don't look like they belong together. Even if it was very hard to control, that was like something from day one that I saw kind of like makes or work like stand out like differently, when all the people, especially on LinkedIn, were just like posting, like pure randomness. And it's still the case today. Product integration extremely hard. Like we used to spend so much time on like Photoshop and doing all these different things. So it was cool to making again like one image. If we have a client that want like series of image, it was extremely challenging. And again, it was like hard to scale into a real campaigns. I think early on, the biggest project we were getting were less about the brand hiring us as like a creative/production agency, more the brand coming because they wanted to collaborate with me because my stuff were getting viral on social media. And so basically, because I did the Nike Impossible Store, then my mailbox was exploding with like every single brand wanted me to do their like version of the Impossible Store, which I'm not always proud to say that I accept a few, because back then I was like, fuck, I don't want to kind of like ruin this concept with like like setting out and working with brand. But it was also just like the beginning, and the reality is that like before you were able to like sell like a full-on campaign customized to your clients, then maybe having like your own style and universe like allow you to get them into it. Then 2024, I'm gonna let you guys watch. I really apologize if it's like shabby like video. It's always a mess when sharing on Zoom. 2024 was like already like a big step up. but like especially on the motion side. But as you can see here, like not like a lot were like going on, right? It's like it's cool, it's impressive. We still have the problem with like the consistency and like the motion and like what were the shots that were working well. Pretty much like combination of like extreme close up were working, but anytime you try to like zoom out from the subject, it was just like getting all over the place. And to kind of like showing you like a behind the scene, we were using like mostly Confi UI back then. So it was like pretty technical and challenging, right? Like for product integration, shout out to Pablo. I don't know if he's here. But Pablo is a wizard. Like another thing that I hope I will say enough during this presentation is like it's not just me anymore. Like we're a studio, we're a team. We have Pablo is like our workflow engineer, wizard and sorcerer. We have Ben on the production, so like the whole team is there. And I think again, if you want to achieve great things, you need to have like all these different skills around the table. But here, Confi UI. I don't know how many of you actually like ever seen Confi UI, tried Confi UI before. Yes, Confi UI. No, I do every day. Kind of like a mixed group. Yeah, I mean, Confi UI, like again, it's still like a very solid, like for the people that are not aware, Confi UI is open source platform, node based system. So like if you did 3D rendering or stuff like that, like you're probably familiar with this type of interface. But I think what was super interesting, like specifically early on, is because it's open source, because you can download the models, you can fine tune the models locally, doing all these different things, kind of like really help with innovation, because you have like a large group of like people that are just like trying to build the best node, the best packages, and like having all these different application available. And again, you didn't really rely on like having like too many different tools, because we were able to focus on like a single platform. So 2024, like I say, to sum up, control arrived, but technical, we needed to like train custom LoRa, use platform like Confi UI, product swap was possible, but like very manual. And then, like full workflow were available, slowly available, but again, only for like advanced people. I'm going to share like a couple of clips or 2025 projects, just to kind of like showing, like the evolution, the consistency, and like the variation of the work, right? From fashion editorial to kind of like more like renders and emotion, to realistic. Like we work with talent, we did a lot of different stuff. Like some of these are like real campaign, real projects. Some of them are just like exercise that we're doing on a studio, because that's another thing too, is like when you work like in the AI space, like you don't have excuse anymore to not like showing your clients and your community like what you're able to produce. Right? Before, if you wanted to do spec works, it was either like you're going to spend a lot of time on it and very hard to like manage, between the real project and the specs. Here, I feel again, it's very exciting because we give full priority to our clients and like running the business, but we keep a lot of time as well, just like exploring like different things. It's like a recent project we did with Decathlon. We have like a few coming up. And here again, the goal is like, we don't want to do like AI slop, yes, if you've been, in motion in 3D, like we cannot compete with Cinema 4D yet. But there is like a lot of like opportunity already to create like way better piece of content that before wouldn't have been possible because of the budget and the timing. In the retail category, I don't know how many of you guys work in retail here in the group, but there is like another, like huge opportunity is like the fact that, you can have like pretty much a similar campaign or like a concept and a system of campaign, and being able to like change the product, change the environment. So before, when you were working on something like this, it was, like you have a lot of planning and you don't have the opportunity to get like more models, more products, just like time and money, always like the two main variable. And so now I feel again with AI, just like the capability to provide your performance marketing team with just like more cooler assets. So it's not just like, 15 assets like twice a year for like the hero campaign. And then the other channel, they just get whatever is like available or left in terms of like budget and content. It's like, no, you can kind of like combine brand marketing and efficiency, which I think is pretty exciting. And so here, another like cool video. I moved recently from California to New York. So it was like, okay, let's do this like clips with like a car, drifting inside a concrete skate park. And then a few more stuff here, which I think, when you see like all the product like accuracy, and I'm going to show you in the live demo that is, before we needed like so much images of the product, we needed to train a custom LoRa doing all the different things. Now it's not necessary anymore. That doesn't mean that, we're not doing any work. That means that when all these tasks that were extremely time consuming and complex, became like more easy to do, then we can focus on like, just like doing cooler sheets, which I think is super important. Here, like the details, the close-up, Nike Air Max 97 silver bullet, like iconic stuff. Like it looks like, a full CGI render. This is like entirely generated with AI, not with a single prompt, with a lot of like intention, defining the art direction, a lot of like, experimentation to like finding the right like vibe and treatment, and then having the workflow after that to being able to create all the different views, the close-up, and then the motion, and then working on the editing part. That's a shame that you guys cannot get the audio right now, but I share this on our social quite a lot. Because like the sound design part is also what's like make this piece more elevated. So yeah, not a single prompt. Like, I mean, again, if anyone want to try with like a single prompt to like generate a campaign like this or a piece of video like this, I mean, God bless them. The situation is like, you either get lucky or you are not. And good luck to work with the client if you rely on your luck to being able to get a project to the finish line. Because we do AI, clients haven't changed, meaning that we present like more option early on, we get them on board. Because we do AI, they have a tendency of like, wanting to like change everything, which is like also like a very important part. Like you as a creative, you need to stand firm on like your vision and your direction is not always easy to do, but you don't want to ending up having, like your clients like on your shoulder telling you, can you change this? Can you change that? Like all the time. It's like make the logo bigger, but like now for like every aspect. So the way we're doing it on the studio again is like, we have the same like steps of like building up, like the creative direction, presenting to the clients, then like moving on like the still images because we need all the stills to be perfect. Because again, if there is one shot where the clients want to change some things, it's impossible to like edit it within the video. So we need to again fix the still first, then get into motion, right? And then you edit the whole stuff. And no matter what, these are like short form of like content for social media. We've been producing 2 TV spots right now with like a real, like script and story and everything, like you need to being able to like, say yes to your client where they want to change something meaningful and have the capability to do so. And one thing on the product side again is like, it used to be so challenging for like product integration and specifically on like glassware, fragrance, all these different stuff. Now again, like you can do it, you can test quickly different style. And you see on like a campaign like this, another stuff that I feel is like very interesting is 1 second. I really need to drink sometimes or you're going to lose me. So yeah, I think one thing that is like very important and interesting is before when you pitch a client on a project, because you don't have the opportunity to produce, 2 different direction, like basically it was like a debate with the clients and like finding this, like middle ground where to be fully honest, even if I've been doing this for 20 years, when I work in a process like this, there is no way I can predict which campaign and which direction will work best. I think now with AI, we also have this like, added capability to being, between like the example on the right, which in my opinion looks like way better than the one in the middle, which is super subjective. And I have no way to back that with like real insights and data. Before would have to be like an argument with the client. And if they choose only the option from the middle, I will feel, they didn't listen to me and like frustrated. I think now what we're always trying to do is like, what, let's just like run with like 2 or 3 options. Let's run it through paid channel. Let's see which one is actually working better. And when we have some insights and, everyone is happy, because I'm totally fine to being, wrong if there is, some data to like prove me wrong. And I just want to prevent having this, like nonsense conversation with the clients where, subjective conversation are like always the most painful when you're working in a creative process. And this is like another one. don't worry, we're gonna move to like the live demo very soon. But yes, I want to just like show like a couple of like different example and application type of stuff that would cost like extremely expensive production to do it, and not sure if the clients will go for it. And so on the talent side, we did a couple of projects for Paris Saint-Germain. Like the very first campaign, when I look at it, I'm kind of like embarrassed now. But what we did for like the last kit was, very impressive. The evolution, the accuracy of the players, and that and other things too. Like people are just a lot of content online, I feel, are like way over indexed on like you can make an OnlyFans influencer and UGC influencer. Like all these things I think are terrible. Like I don't think it's a good things to having like an AI generated avatar claiming that the product have certain benefits, because it was already bad enough when it was real people being paid to say that a product has benefit when it's not true. I think here the way we're looking at it is using talent, using influencer, because sometimes it's just like not possible. So the Paris Saint-Germain example, where they were all in the Champions League, the players were not available to do the photo shoots. So it was either there is no photo shoot with the players, or we do a photo shoot without the players. And for this type of example, it's like same idea. Like of course, like a main campaign for Cartier with Beyonce, they probably don't need AI to produce the thing. But what all the other opportunities, and when these things get adopted and it becomes a new norm, and then clients will realize that like, yeah, maybe we want to pay Beyonce for this campaign. We don't want to spend, like 200K on like, all the other like logistic elements of like, finding the location, getting a fucking white leopard on the set, and like all these different things. So I think people need to like understand that as well. It's not just about, deep fake and getting Donald Trump to, to do like a funny dance or this type of stuff. I think these parts are like interesting, but this is not what we're doing. Like we're a studio, and we feel that soon enough is not going to be like an AI question. Like we're just like a VFX company. We're using AI. You use it through platform like ComfyUI and the others, or soon enough it will be in any software, no matter what. So I think this conversation and this topic will die very soon. So yeah, 2025, to sum up, breakthrough year. New models remove the technical barrier, so just able to move way faster. Campaign level consistency, I'm going to show you in the example, but again, before it was like one image at a time. If the clients want, 6 or 10 images, then you need to redo the entire process beginning to end. And then I feel video is not totally mature, but we're getting there. Like now we're able to ship like a real 30-second spot that is not like AI slop, that tell a real story. Yes, you don't want to use AI yet, in my opinion, for like acting and this type of stuff. But I think for like pretty much, 80% of the type of content you can do for a commercial, you can probably use AI, at least as part of the pipeline. All right, 2026. How are we doing? How are we feeling? I'm gonna get into that, and actually, let's go, Ben. Can we take like maybe like one or two question, like before I get into the next step? Yeah.
You want to ask them to call in?
Okay. So yeah, you guys can. So they can ask to call in, or do we select it in the chat?
Please.
Okay, so you guys like raise your hand if you want to come in and like ask a question. We're gonna take two questions and then we're gonna move on. But I feel I've been firing a lot at you guys already, so I think we can take one or two question. Yeah.
You pick.
Okay, I do it. Okay. Sorry. All right. Okay, there's like a lot here. A lot of hand. Okay. Okay. Should I promote them to panelists so they can put their video on, or just allow to talk? Okay. I'm going to do that. So Noah Tate. Noah, are you here with us? If you guys raise your hands before but don't want to talk, oh, okay. All right. So let me go 1 second. Yeah, the full attendee list. Oh my God. Let's get into it. Trust the process. We're moving to like a new version of like Webinar Plus very soon. So it should be even more seamless. Okay, I'm going to take Charlie. So I'm going to promote Charlie to panelist and allow Charlie to talk. What's up, Charlie? Can you hear me?
Hi, hello.
Hi, Charlie. We can hear you now.
I didn't think I'd go live, but thanks first of all for putting this on for us. I have so many questions, but I guess I'll have to just come up with one. What do you think? I've only been doing AI for the past couple years. The past few months, more taking it more seriously. I am from a design fashion background. How do you think is the best way to monetize one's work for getting clients as a beginner if in the AI field? Because there's so many programs out there. I'm already a part of so many apps, so many different programs. And I just want to know what would you advise for starting out, how to monetize?
Totally. Yeah, that's a very good one. And you say you've been dabbling with like AI for like a couple of years now, and
Yeah.
your background is like you're a fashion designer, meaning you design clothes, or you work
Yes.
for fashion brands. Okay.
I've worked for fashion brands, the likes of McQueen, Stella McCartney.
Awesome.
A fab career doing that. And then I also, well, the past 8 years into costume design for high-end TV here in the UK. So I've had, I'm grateful for the career I've had as a creative. You know, it's difficult in terms of maintaining stability. Not everything's always lucrative. However, I feel with AI, what's great is all my years of experience can culminate into me finally projecting my vision for, you know, design brands, having designed for them, styled for them. But again, it's like, you know, I am confused because I'm like, oh, I'll go, you know, there's an avatar route, there's a UGC route, which I'm not really a fan of, if I'm honest. It's the branding that I'm interested in, and that high refined. I mean, your goals, you're definitely up there with goaded on the AI level.
Totally. Yeah. I think, yeah. And I think that the most important, and you kind of like touch on it, right, is like, I don't think you want to define yourself as like an AI designer now, because like, to your point, you're a fashion designer, right? And similar with like, I don't like when people are like, you know, like call me an AI artist, because you know, I'm a creative director, I'm a visual artist, and now I use AI, you know, the same way I use other tool. And never before anyone called me, you know, like an illustrator graphic designer, like, you know, like all this nonsense. So I think to answer quickly on your question, because there's like, you know, a lot of people, a lot of question, and need to get through the presentation. I think for you, what is interesting is, you know, you have this background, you have these skills, you learn the AI tool and you use them to do stuff within your field that were extremely time consuming or not possible before, right? And just like the idea came out of my mind, right, is like a very straightforward like use case is like when you do fashion design, accessories, all these things, you usually like start with like sketching, and before, again, when you work with a client, it was like, okay, here is a sketch, right? And it go to the factory with a bunch of swatches, and like all this process takes forever. I have a little bit of experience in this field as well, and I think what is very interesting with AI now is like you can take your sketch, you can create like high fidelity render of the product with different material, different color palettes, different texture, like all the different things. And then you can also put them on a model, right? Like you can do these things without the help of anyone, right? It's like, you know, one workflow. This is like a specific workflow we have in Masters of AI, but it's just like so interesting because this apply for fashion design, furniture design, anything. And I think it's very important because if you go back to your existing clients or you start to like, you know, flex on social media, like these things, you know, people will be able to tell that your, you know, skills and background is a fashion designer, right? But now you're using AI to just, you know, making like better, like helping them to project themselves better in like working with you. And that's the same thing. The way we got Paris Saint-Germain as a client is like, because, you know, before, if I wanted to kind of like create like a concept ads to pitch Paris Saint-Germain, that was doable, but it was, like weeks and weeks of work. And to be honest, when you run your studio, you probably don't want to spend like your team resource that are already busy doing many things and yourself on like doing this type of stuff if you are not sure that this is going to change and you're going to have a client. I think with AI now, you don't really have this excuse because, if you lock yourself in for like, 2 weeks, you can probably, revisit previous work, like kind of like elevating these things and going back to your clients or, just like sharing on social, how you're able now to, get from sketch to like high render, like product, making better decision. And I think by the end of the day, when it's like about like designing product and object and all these different things, there is like the taste and like your vision and this part, but there is also, can you solve a business problem to your clients? And I'm telling you, we're not doing that because this is not our bread and butter. But like if you go to like pitch any brand that develop products and you tell them, okay, instead of going sketch, swatch, go to the factory in China, wait 2 or 3 weeks to get a sample back, try the product, realize that it doesn't fit or actually looks terrible with this swatch combination, redo this entire process over and over again. And you're like, okay, now we can skip this. And you can send the factory in China something that the leadership and everyone, from the brand side, I've been like, okay, we think that looks fire. Let's go for it. I mean, you're still going to have like some steps, but I think this is like, maximum efficiency. So yeah, I hope that helps. Really need to like get going and take other question. Yeah, I feel you're like on the right track. And this is something that apply, by the way, for like everyone else listening. Like I personally think that being an AI artist is like, it's a little bit ridiculous and like defining yourself on the tools you use instead of just being, like a fashion designer, art director, creative director, because that's what brand will go and try to hire.
Right. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Charlie. Okay. Change role to attendee. Okay. I'm going to take one more. I'm going to take John Patrick. Dude, is moving too fast. Let's go. Promote to panelists and then allow to talk. Oh, Amine. Actually, Amine, sorry, it was like moving on the stuff. What's up, Amine? Amine or Amin?
Amin, it's Amin. Can you hear me?
Amin. Yeah, I can hear you right.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, let's
for
try
the
to keep the
invitation.
question just like short
Yeah,
and
for
precise.
sure. I won't say my
Exactly.
life story.
Awesome.
So I'm a
Thank you.
videographer and cinematographer. I was wondering if you like the Nike ad you did. Was it digital photography first? And like, how do you imply videography into the AI generation if it's any videography, photography
Yeah, so
implication?
again, it's like when you like basically like just to sum up the steps is like at first when we're working on something like the Nike Silver Bullet render, right, is like the good thing with Nike is like if you prompt like a Nike Silver Bullet, you Air Max 97, you will have like something close, right? But the other example with Decathlon is like a product that didn't exist, so if you try to prompt it, you're not going to get anything. Usually we try to be on like the research phase as close as possible to like the final product we're going to integrate, because it's more research on like the treatment and the texture and all these different things. And we don't want to start with, like an iPhone and has to like swap it with a shoe. We can do it, but it's probably going to be just like unnecessarily stupid work. And so once we have that, then we want to like replace the product. So this is when like accuracy is very important. Client will provide us, usually with, I would say, like 5 different shots, like depending of what we're trying, but we want to be able to see, in the context, the product in all the different angles for the AI part, but also for us in terms of QA, right? Because if we don't have the back of the shoe image, then we cannot, consider if like this is like accurate or not, right? So you still need to get this stuff. You can use AI to help you with like certain angles that are not provided. In the live demo, I'm going to show that in like the context of a model, but that's apply for product as well. And so basically we have the style, we have the vibe, we swap the products. Then we create variation of the shot, different view, close-up, angle, all the different things, and then we take this into motion. Like motion is actually like it's the final step in terms of like the generation, and we don't over-index of like crazy JSON prompt for motion and stuff like that. Again, I think they're like mostly used to kind of like flex like spec ads or piece of content that don't, need this level of consistency. And then sure, maybe in like 2 months from now, Google drop like a new like VO/Nano Banana Pro combine. And then, everything I just say right now will be outdated. But from kind of like the ways the technology works and the steps, like I think at least like right now, if you want to be consistent in the work and being sure that, you show your client what is going to be in the film in the end, like you need to follow these key steps. And then upscaling, editing VFX, we are not using AI for these parts. We have editors, we score the stuff because like sound effect generated or audio generated by AI, again, can be fine for like, just like making a AI slop or brain rots. Like if you work with a client, I don't think it's solid enough as a solution.
So you take some elements and put them in like DaVinci for like color grading and fine tuning the final render,
So
right?
not DaVinci, but again, I'm going to show that in the live demo, like the main platform that we're using at the moment.
Thank you so much.
All right, you're welcome. All right, let's go. I'm gonna just like being sure that I don't kick you out. I mean, I just want to put you back on the attendee. Can you do that, Ben, or no? Control to attendee and then table talking. Okay, we should be good. All right, awesome. Let's continue on this ride. So like I say, creating campaign with AI isn't optional anymore. It's expected. I mean, if after everything I just show you, you still don't believe it, then I don't know what I can do for you. But that was a reason for, this like, taking the time on the introduction, on the example, like breaking down all these different things. I think for 2026, the model will continue to get better, but on image generation consistency, I think it's very hard to, do better than Nano Banana Pro. Yes, like ByteDance will release another model and you will see like incremental evolution, but nothing from what we saw in like the past couple of years. And what I feel is like real shift this year is not like the AI model, it's accessibility. And that's a big topic. And yes, that's a smooth transition to talk about this amazing platform that we're using. But I think this is like what makes the whole difference. Like as a team, even if I have Masters of AI and we're training people, it's been so hard to kind of like find all the talent that we can work together because Comfy UI is not really built for that, right? It's good for like next level nerd. It's not really made for like collaboration across a different creative profile, different creative function. And so before how it looks like, and I'm probably missing a bunch of logos, was like all these different platforms. When we launched Masters of AI a year ago, like the very first ideation and the second version of the curriculum, I think we're covering like, maybe like around 15 different tools, and you needed to like switch tools for like every single step of the process, extremely painful. You need to like, do ideation in one part, and then you move for image generation and you edit and you go in Photoshop, like all this like context switching. Again, if you wanted to do it, we were able to do it, but it was, like a pain. And if you work within a team, which is probably the vast majority of you guys as well. Like if you work on your own, it's totally fine to use all these different stuff. Even if you work at like a small agency or like small brand with like 2 or 3 people, you want to work as a team. And I think that like very important. Yeah, I probably forgot like a bunch of logo here. To be honest, didn't spend like a lot of time on like designing this one. Wanted to just like showcase all these like different logos, and like I say, probably like you can make this like triple and you get close to the reality. And so I think we move from like the fragmented era with like all the different models, tools, platform, and like chaos. And for me, complexity kills momentum. That was my Kanye West moment. I wanted to have this effect, and that's why I want at some point to do this on a stage. So we can have like all these beautiful slides living in the context. Consolidation is starting. So, I mean, it's starting already a while back. There is like, multiple platforms that exist that kind of like, serve as like a one hub with like everything in one place. But I think, again, is like, like the right tool for like the right moment. I feel that, lower friction with faster adoption across the board, which means that, again, like if you work at an organization, now it's like a reality that, the team can like work together. That means that competition will also move faster because it's going to be, like faster and faster to use these different platforms. And without further ado, I wanted to introduce, like a platform that we're, pretty happy to call partner now, because we're partnering up with them on Masters of AI for a lot of exciting stuff, as well as a studio. And one of the main things for us was, and I'm going to do the live demo right after, we wanted to be able to replicate the vast majority of the workflow we're running on Confi UI within like a single platform. So not only Flora, they're like technically our neighbor, and we love the team. Shout out to Weber, shout out to like everyone if they're like part of the conversation. We are literally 15 minutes apart, so we had the opportunity to meet before. But I think for us, it was like always about like, can we bring the same level of production within the platform? Because we believe that having like a single platform, and you can still work with like all the stuff around, right? But having like a main production engine is, will change everything for 2026. And so, one platform, all the models, there is still certain models that are not available, open like Midjourney. You still need to use Midjourney on the side, but I would say the vast majority of the models are available there, which means that it also helps with like being constantly, following all the latest update and drop and figuring out which model works best or no. Like now we can just like literally testing out and switch from one model to another inside one platform. The thing that really get us with Flora was the fact that the team is like, they're all creative. Like it's like a team of creative working for creative. Make like an entire, world of like difference, because again, we are working closely with them when there is something that, either doesn't work or like we think could be like improved. They are super receptive with the feedback. And I've been in conversation with many different platforms. I don't consider myself like an AI influencer, like I never wanted to be like positioned as like, you should like claim my code to like using this. I'm saying that I'm going to give you a code soon, but I'm going to say why we're doing it. But just like switching like every other week, like having another platform to promote another model, it's like really about, like using it and being confident that this is something that we can teach our students at Masters of AI, that we can teach the companies that we work with, and we can use it like internally. So yeah, and I know some people are like asking the difference between Krea, Wavy, Xfield. I think like, pretty much in the landscape, you have like the models and then you have the platform that like aggregate all the different things. So there is a few, Flora is not the only one. And everything we're teaching in the Masters of AI, by the way, is not, like tied to like a single platform. Is like, learning the workflow, learning the steps and the process that you can apply, everywhere you want. But the things for us, like I say, was like few reasons where we were, let's go with Flora, let's push with it. And I'm going to explain a few there. So first one, by the way, if you never tried Flora before, give me 1 second for this one. We are, the team were like kind enough to give me a code for everyone on the webinar. If you create a Flora account, you will get 2,500 free credits for AI generation. That's on them, that's on us, like nothing ask more. You get 25% discount on the subscription, and then you get 2,500 credits, which is, like still a good way to kind of like getting started. So I think, Ben, can you try to like put the link there, because you guys need to use this specific link. It's probably going to be crazy. Maybe if you guys want to like slow down just a minute on the messages, I mean, really nice to like see all the messages coming in. But so yeah, we're going to put the link and you click on it. Flora has like a free trial. There is different plan after that. No matter what you sign up, you get your 2,500 credits. And if you don't, you can reach out to Flora support team. I'm not sure if Carlson is looking at us right now. Maybe I get like a message after this and they're like, we're not doing this anymore, Benny. So yeah, let's see. I want, like thousands of people like getting access. This is for like new users. So if you've been using it before, we have like other perks down the line, but I think it's still interesting. Again, you can like explore. What I'm going to show you in a minute is like built on Flora. So, that's something as well that I'm not sure if you're going to be to like, try the entire thing on your own, but I think at least you can like have a feel and like see the platform and kind of like get a feel for it. So no, Flora is not in Xfield. So Flora is like another platform. So it's like a platform where you have all the models, Nano Banana Pro, like all the ByteDance, all the video model, everything in one place. So you use the credit and you're being able to use it. And I believe the discount will apply once you take, like a paid plan after. Again, I don't want to spend forever on this one. If it doesn't work, let's like you guys can reach out to support and then they will figuring out. But to your point, the thing that always, I know Xfield is very popular and I'm not here to talking shit about anyone, but one thing that I feel, everyone should be mindful is anytime they claim like unlimited generation with Nano Banana Pro, for example, like this is not sustainable because Nano Banana Pro is very expensive. And usually if you sign up for like an unlimited plan is like too good to be true. And you will put on like queue that takes forever to generate your images. So you probably don't want to do that. I mean, that's fine if you do it, if you have it. But again, here is like being sure that you can use it in like a real professional setup. Don't have to like press generation and then come back 2 days later to see what you've been able to generate. All right, let's continue. Not working, not working, not working. I know, I knew it. Like, I mean, first try. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Is it working for like anyone? And like, if it works for you, just like drop some up in emojis because no, yeah, not on cell phone. You guys can like keep the link, save it, like maybe try it. I have your email addresses because you sign up. So, maybe like keep the link, being sure you copy and pass on the side. And then we send you like an email with an update. Sorry if, like something is working. I'm thinking like for some people it's working. So again, it's like new account. You sign up, you get the discount and the credits.
Breakout.
Okay. You get the credit. You don't pay anything. You get credit-free account, and you can, don't start using it right now. Let's continue with the presentation. All right. So how to build real campaigns with AI. I'm just gonna like break down like the step again of like how we are doing it, and then I'm going to show you the live demo. But basically, like I mentioned before, kind of like the idea of like building like world building, like environment. Like the main different things right now is like we can still do mood board and references, like we use it like a lot, but we also want like pretty fast in the process to being able to like develop the campaign environment that we're going to pitch to our clients. And so this is just like an example of like a potential campaign for like Levi's and the Born and Raised collaboration. And so, the step after that is like we generate images. One thing that is important is like before, like I say, with like less control, we needed to generate like, hundreds, sometimes thousands of images and then have to review and like pick and everything. I think now we are able to make like way more strategic about it. So we generate actually like way less images than before. And that's something, again, when people are, thinking that we're like destroying the planet using AI, like the truth is like, yeah, like maybe OpenAI is doing with like certain things that are just like meme and brain rot and, like all these like different things that are not like valuable. I mean, what we're doing on our side is, doesn't use more energy than like any other type of like campaign we would have done before. And so the part that is still important, very important, again, once we have the vibe is like the human curation. So like deciding, what we're going to put into the campaign and how we want to present it to the clients. And one thing that changed dramatically, I would say in the past 6 months, is like the capability to edit the images without having to do a lot of post-production work in Photoshop. And that's something, again, like before, if you have like a crooked end, so like you can see here, on the end that like holding the steering wheels is kind of like, all mushy. And it's still using like a recent model, but like this type of shit will happen. We can fix and improve pretty much everything directly within like Flora and other platform. So that's like another evolution. I know Adobe is like really hard on like, they're going to have all these AI features in their tool. I mean, that's sad to say that because we probably use mostly Adobe for the past 20 years. Now we feel that like Adobe hasn't been built, primarily for this type of workflow. Platform like Flora, they started with like, Gen AI in mind and understanding all the different steps and the process that we need as a creative to being able to use the most of this new technology and models. I don't want to have to like open up in Photoshop, select, and doing all these different things. And product integration, right? Big stuff. That's what, in my opinion, make like a project viable or not. Again, like I explained before, when I answer the question, we needed to like train entire, like custom LoRa's on products, take a lot of time, take a lot of resource, and then accuracy wasn't even perfect. Now is like pretty much with like one image reference, we can integrate the products. So that's also like, game changer, because I'm still impressed that there is like, sometimes brands that come to us and show example of like what other studio did with AI, and then the product looks terrible and this type of things. I feel now is like you don't have excuse to doing this type of stuff. And then give me 1 second. Honestly, I don't know how people do for like streaming, like 8 hours, 12 hours. Like maybe I need to like develop these skills. But thank you, Erwan. Erwan is refueling me as we go. So yeah, the image variation part, very important too, because like before, and that apply for still images and that apply for video as well, right? Is like before I generate an image, I need to like pretty much redo the entire process of like product integration, editing, and all the different things. Now, and I'm going to show you in a minute, once we have like the key visuals that we like, we can generate, like all the other variations. So like close-up shot, like wide angle, like all these different things. And it's not just like the demo we're seeing a lot with like, camera going up, down, like this type of stuff. Like that's fine. It's more about like how do we create, like really dynamic shots without having the need to produce from beginning to end the entire image. We still need to like fix and polish and doing all these different stuff, but the efficiency, it's just, like crazy right now compared to before. And you can see like the little like motion clip, right? It's like motion is like, yes, Kling is amazing, VO is amazing. It's going to continue to like improve in this way. You can have start and end frame now that allow you to have like the perfect consistency. So for me, the biggest like uplift in motion will be like, the story, like what stereo you're telling, like how cool is the piece of content. And I'm going to show you just like one example. This is not a full length video. This is something that we actually did before the drop of Nano Banana. And, but it was like already we can tell like, okay, we can like push like the environment, the vibe and all these different stuff. So just like another example, I mentioned before, like the system. This is something that I feel is like a huge opportunity for 2026. Is again, everyone soon enough will be able to do like a couple of images that looks fire, right? I think like Nano Banana Pro just like making, this part like a reality. And as a creative, we can be fucked, right? Because like in a sense, it like you can don't start crying. Someone can take your image and try to replicate it. Someone can go on Pinterest and try to replicate an image. I think again, like this existed before AI. I don't think it's going to change. I feel what is important to your clients is like showing that you bring creativity, but you can also bring like a more scalable like system and approach. So this is just, like a shot for Timberland, within this like bodega, we have the model, we have the product. So everything that I mentioned before, but here again, if I want to like swap the product so we can generate like multiple variation of the assets with like different references, because, if you've been working in marketing for real, like, that again, it's like impossible to predict like the right combination of like product shot and all the different things, like especially for paid social. And then here again, just like another example of like the shot variation, the consistency of the model. I didn't put the video here, but just to kind of like showing this, and then like the persona switch as well. That's like another thing that we work a lot on. We work with Lacoste on this type of like topics, but it's also, when you're a brand, especially a global brand, and you want to kind of like target like different, like gender, different ethnicity, different market, like now you can do it directly within like the AI workflow. So that's pretty interesting. All right. Who is ready for a good live demo? How many people do we still have here? Oh yeah, 2,673. Let's go. Full disclosure, I never did a live demo before. Not because I don't trust Flora or I don't trust myself, but been doing this for a while, been in tech, software, all these different things, and we always call this like the demo effect, meaning that no matter what, no matter how hard you prep and bulletproof everything, when you do a demo, there is always a very high chance that you're gonna like mess this up, especially in front of clients. So like you can imagine in front of like almost 3,000 people, how I feel right now. My credibility is at stake. I hope I'm not gonna fuck this up. So let's stop sharing these parts. I need to open up, like the real window. Okay, I'm just like refreshing, like being sure everything is good. Full disclosure, I'm not gonna like break down every single node and element and everything. I want to show you like the different steps. This is like one of the workflow out of, I believe, like about like 25 that we build for Masters of AI as well as we use internally. This is like one use case. There is many different application. You might have seen some of these. That's totally fine, for you. The goal here again is to kind of like breaking down these steps, kind of like showing like how far we went and also sharing, as much value as possible in the process. So let me share this. Can everyone see my screen? Yes? All right, let's go. We're good, Ben? Yep, perfect. So this is what Flora looks like, so it's like a way more sexy and cool, and I would say accessible version of like a platform like Comfy UI. But that's also great, that it built with this like workflow system in mind, because I think again it's like when you're using like Gemini directly or like trying to like use Nano Banana Pro and this type of thing, like you're doing like one image at a time, like this is not possible, because the reality is no matter what you do, no matter how good you are with the prompt and the setting and everything, when you will generate images, like as you can see here, I have always at least 4 outputs, sometimes 6 or like even 9, because you cannot predict, right? So if I'm doing like one at a time, and then that's what happened a lot, and I'm hearing this a lot of like people give it a try, they do the things, output doesn't look too great, then they consider that is not working. This is just like a latent space. This is AI, this is how it works. But here I have like a lot of like elements that kind of like help out with these parts. And so the first thing I'm going to upload, and the only thing that I'm going to use that is not part of this generation is my model reference. So here I created, like this model with Midjourney. And I want to kind of like showing you like how, yes, you can use like just like one image to being able to create like a consistent shoot. Most of the time, this is not enough. And so this thing is like very important as a first step. I'm going to run it and I'm going to continue to talk because it can take like a little bit of time. But basically, the very first step here is to take this like, like first shot and then being able to create a grid with like 4 different like variation angle of the face. Because the reality is like when you work on an editorial piece of content, not everything will be shot like usual suspects. Kaiser Soze, I don't know if like, many of you as a reference here, but that like, super important to being able to like provide like different variation. Of course, here I'm showing you with like a fully AI generated model and pipeline that can work with like real people. The rules supply is the same. Is like, if you want to like integrate for yourself, an avatar, a talent, an influencer you're working with, like you don't want to just make the beginner mistake of having just like one front face. You want to have like different variation. And then here, what's going on is that basically we have our system prompt that doing like a lot of the magic here. And then we have a little bit of context, which actually I think is like from like a previous generation, is not even mandatory. And so basically here, is like taking like the system prompt, the image input, and then it converting the whole things, within like a JSON or like a more detailed instruction with the reference of the model. That's kind of like very important here. That's another serve too that, before, to being able to do this type of stuff, you needed to like build a custom GPT, put your prompt, put it in GPT, like get the prompt back, like all these like different steps. Like here, we build the workflow, so like you don't have to do that. And here we're like seeing a first one that is like coming out. So like consistency is like pretty crazy. And I got like different option. Like I say for like, the realism and the angle and all these different things, minimum 4 generation. So like same thing, the way we build the workflow here, shout out to Pablo, is to being able also to like breaking out in like 3 very distinct prompts, use Gemini to like enhance it, like a lot of different things, but being sure that like the main output is like very similar, but different enough to getting, like some good variation. So here we have our like 4 images. Like which one should we select for like getting into the next phase? Like top right, top left, bottom. Top left, I agree. Yeah, second. One thing that is interesting here is also to, like getting enough context on the body is like usually something interesting, because we're going to expand now to like the entire body. But like sometimes, this can work, but it's like, more details obviously on the face and everything, but you get like a little bit less context of the body. So like having a little bit of the neck and the shoulder, like is always a good idea. Here, it's kind of like, I think the proportion are not perfect, but that's totally fine to move forward. I think this one is like probably a good like middle ground. So I'm going to download this image. I saw a question about the prompt. Like I'm going to share like the user prompt. We're not going to share like the system prompt for like each of these different steps. Again, this is something that we share within Masters of AI, and we share all the workflow pre-build. I'm not going to share like all this stuff like on the webinar. I want to show you like the different steps and how it works. And here, so now the second step is we had consistency over the face. Just one question, Ben. You see my like folder and everything when I upload, or no? You see only Flora, right? Okay, cool. Okay, so I'm gonna upload. Here we go. I'm gonna upload the face here. So now we have this grid. And then here, I just want to generate like the full body consistency, because like that's another thing. When you work on like a photo shoot, you don't want the model to look like a little bit shorter or taller, like or skinny from like generation to generation. And here, this is like me, but that can work for like any, like any direction. I usually prefer to kind of like having them wearing like a Skims, like shapewear type of outfit. Because we see as much of the body as possible. I could generate her with like wearing a very large puffer jacket, but that might be a problem after when I need to put the tank top and stuff like that. So we're going to continue. Don't worry. Like I say, I'm not going to stop and, like really like cannot talk anymore. So like all the question and everything, I'm going to take the time to answer them in the end. And yes, so basically it's like, we have the system prompt that is like basically giving like the full instruction of like what is supposed to happen next. Here is an input. So the image is actually being read by Gemini. So like it's going to describe the physique of the person. And then here we're adding, like extra instruction. So like basically all the prompt that we've been using, like we build this system. So it's just like, way more easy to kind of like getting through all the different steps without the need of like creating like a very complex prompt. All right. So this part is generating. We're kind of like setting up all the ingredients that we're going to need in the end. For the Flora free credits, maybe we keep this for like later now. Like I say, you guys, we'll send like an update. We'll check with their team. They're amazing. I'm sure they're going to figuring out what's going on. We have like 3,000 people here, probably like a lot of people trying to create an account at the same time. And so here we go. So we generate here, like basically front view, back view, side view of the model with the head in it, right? Very important for like consistency. As you can see, it's like super consistent. white background because the goal here is like not to try to make like a fancy editorial. But again, all these different steps can be used at like different moments. Like let's say if you actually do work on like an e-com type of photo shoot, like you can stop at like, I think like step 4 or 5 that I'm going to show you. And here again, you have like different vibe. So it's like different pose, for the model, just like selecting which one, like looks the best. I think maybe this one is like the winner. Here on the setting, you can see that we are generating in 4K that allow us to like use like the grid. So we still have very good resolution, but instead of doing like 4 nano banana pro generation of like each, angle of the model, which will cost, like 4 times the generation, we are able to like basically group all of this into one. So that's like a big thing. So, all right, which model should we take? I mean, they looks like pretty close. Bottom right seems better. Yeah. I think there is like less shadow. Like here, there is like a different outfit. Again, what is interesting is like, it's not, all these are like ingredient that then we're going to combine together. So if we look at here and we're like, oh, we're losing a little bit of the like resemblance. I mean, we don't have to worry because then we're going to combine multiple ingredients for the final generation. So it's not just going to be the head, the body, the product, and you lose every time you generate. It's like how you create all these different input and then you combine them together to get like the most realistic outputs. So let's take this one. I'm gonna save it. Oh, and I actually could have run this one before. So this one is interesting. Like I mentioned before, we need products, right? So being able to just like put product on our model. And let me just like get like one example. There is like multiple way to do that. But the thing here that I like to showcase, because I think it's pretty impressive, is the fact that like we can use like an image of like this like model wearing for like Chanel, I think is like, the latest, if not like the before fashion show. And then we're going to use this reference to extract all the product as product pack shots on like a single image as well. This is like really cool because, of course, you could use a different real product pack shot in like the next steps. But what is crazy here is like you imagine that like, you are a brand and you're running your fashion shows and, most of the time they kind of like do the photo shoot after of like all the product and all the different things. So here you can like extract from this image. You can also like being working in like an agency where like, or for a brand where like an intern could wear the products. So we have like references about like how it looks, but then same logic, like extracting the product from this, because sometimes it's more easy to getting, like, I don't know how to say the word, but like the model that are not, to be like the face of your campaign, but just like wearing the product. It's like more easy to do that in a quick shot instead of doing, like product pack shots, like studio lighting and all these different things. So here you're going to see, it's like basically taking this image and it's going to extract, yeah, fit model. Thank you so much, Jessica. So we're going to see, like how it works. Like I say, you can use the product pack shot. If you work on like a client, like very exigent on the product, that can be like in a finish step as well of like just like fixing like a specific product. That's not something that I'm not going to cover here because I think the example will be already very impressive. But yeah, all this like polishing for like final delivery to your client, video as well. I have like a couple of output that I generated to show you, but I'm not going to doing it like live or, it's going to take forever. Not forever, but like long enough that I'm going to get tired of it. And so here again, I'm just like, going through all the different steps. And so basically, so we save the body. And so here, while this is generating, I'm just going to add, like the, 1 second, I'm just going to add the face we selected. So the grid. Can you guys still hear me? I just lost my AirPod, I think. Yeah, good. And then we're going to use the body as well. And here, as you can see, the silhouette is like already being, like separated with all the products. It's not 100%, perfect and always accurate. You can see here, there's like, multiple variation, but like this one is like definitely a good starting point. This one is like, it's off and it's a no-go. Like, I don't think it match. This one has like too many, here for the demo, I do 4. like I say, usually like 8, like you're sure you're going to have like one that is actually good. Here for the quality, I'm running everything in 4K, but if I run in like 2K or even 1K, it's like cheaper in terms of credits, and then it's generating faster as well. But I just want to kind of like showing you like what it takes to generating like this like high quality output. So it's getting there. I think this one can work. Like swear, oh yeah, definitely not this one. So let's take this one. I think is the closest, just because I don't want to like regenerate again. It's pretty crazy. Like you get the jacket, you get, like the skirt, get the shoe, like even the hearing kind of like came out of this. If we look here, the necklace is like not perfect. Like hearing as well can be like edited in second phase. But I think we're like, getting like pretty close on like, the product and the fit overall. So we're just gonna move there. I know extraction is crazy. And to be honest, like this is like one of these like demo effects. It's like if I show you, I have it here. If I show you like the one that I generated, like before to like being sure that the shit was working properly, is like if I show you the product extraction, no, here, 1 second. Yeah, so you're gonna see like that was like one of the previous generation. Gonna like appear here in a second. So here, that was like one of the outputs. Like the shoes, the socks separated, like the jacket is perfect, like the shirt, like all the different things. So we can use this. If I spend like a little bit time and I run multiple times the jobs, then we're gonna get what you need. And so here, as you can see, there is no instruction in the user prompt. It's like everything is happening there. And so what do you think is the next step? I mean, kind of like spoiled it with ingredients. Exactly. In terms of credits, I mean, I'm not too sure. But I know that like, Nano Banana Pro, like 4K generation is about 25 cents. But, you don't have to go for like 4K. So obviously like 1K, 2K, 4K, you spend like more credits. We give like amazing credit package to Masters of AI students, and that's why like when you're ideating, when you're working on it, like there is like other like different approach. Like we don't recommend, I know exactly what I'm doing and where I'm going. If you're just like iterating on IDs and everything, like you probably don't want to go like 4K Nano Banana Pro, like cranking like 50 generation at a time. But also with that being said, the reality is like the price gonna get down, right? Is like Nano Banana Pro has like a big head start, with this shit because they generated like they released the most powerful and efficient model. None of the competition has been able to like reach the Nano Banana Pro point right now, but ByteDance with like Seedream recent update, like everyone is like chasing. And so I think like the goal for Google is obviously to like drive as much adoption as possible. So I think the cost will go down, and I really hope I'm not saying anything wrong, but I don't think like Flora is like marging on the cost of this, right? Like you use the platform and there is a credit, so the more affordable it is, the more you will be able to generate for like your credits. And I think that's the goal of like every platform is like being sure that you can generate as much as you can and really using them within your professional setup. So here we go. So here we have our model with like perfect consistency across like the body shape and everything, the head. We have subtle variation on like the hearing, for example, and then like a couple of like different pose. So here again, I can use that and generate like more variation of the silhouette, but you're going to see very soon that is not mandatory. And but like very very consistent, like here's like introducing the stylism and just like different variation. um I usually like to kind of like not necessarily have only like the pure like front view of the product, because like 3/4 is like what like the AI sometimes struggle with. So we're going to use this one. Why did I start with a shapewear? Because if you see here, you know, oh my God, what happened? Oh, sorry, messing around. If you see here, like at first I need this body because let's say if I have like multiple outfits, right? I want to be sure that I have consistency over my model, right? So if she's wear different outfit across the campaign, then I have this ingredient, I have her face. Pretty much, these parts are locked across the entire process. I don't want to change it anymore. So yeah, I could use this as kind of like a grid. So like I mentioned before, I could have say here. Apologize, I did a mess. I could have say here that she's wearing like the Chanel outfit or like add the Chanel outfit as an ingredient, but I just feel that it's better to having, her wearing pretty much nothing. And by the way, I can also prompt and ask for her to be, more tiny, like different body shape and all these different things. So yeah, it's like building up the ingredient and like the stuff that I'm going to be able to use. And in terms of like an e-com standpoint, like same thing, I could like here add that I want like a different type of background, a different type of like lighting and all these different stuff. So yeah, it's pretty structured. I'm always say that I don't have a I'm not like the ultimate truth about everything, but that's kind of like a process that like works well. Again, when we know where we're getting, here I'm like starting with ingredient and everything, but that kind of works as well if I already have like the creative direction pretty set up in the beginning. And so now we're gonna kind of like combine different elements together. So I'm gonna, like upload our model now that she's wearing the proper outfit. You can have up to 7 ingredients in Nano Banana Pro. So you can add more stuff. The problem is I think the more you add ingredients, like the more like crazy can be the generation. So that's why again, like these steps kind of like works pretty well. So, I still want, like the product, I want, like this part to be accurate. And then here, I'm just gonna try like a different location. So I want to like run 2 actually for this one to kind of like showing you the difference. But image generation, multi-references. And we try with this one. And actually, I'm going to put the product back in here because we're going to use like her face again in like the final images. All right, so my 3 ingredients here that are ready, and here a Chanel editorial campaign with a model standing in front of an empty gas station in the middle of the desert, introducing angle and point of view, shot on film, grain, analog. So we have these things. And by the way, this is, like why I feel, like a lot of like the online course and stuff like that, they were like basically selling you like prompt, sheet and, like this type of stuff. Like I think the, prompt engineering and understanding how to structure a prompt and basically explain your idea is like very important, but it's like probably 20% of the work now. So again, like when someone is like, this is a cool sheet that I do it 2 minutes before going to bed and I'm going to share my prompt with you, I would recommend, to being mindful because again, like, yeah, you can copy and paste and prompt, but I think now is less about that. It's more about like understanding all the different steps and the level of control you can get. Like I said, this is not, like a single workflow. And here, all the group, we save them and we can use them in different contexts, right? So it's like, just like building this engine and these capabilities where, we're creative first, we want to land like the best idea possible and the coolest campaign. But then also we're like so efficient now at like producing, showing to our clients, like refining and then like going back into the process. All right, this thing is generating. You guys want to stay until the end. Like there's like a lot of good stuff. And again, a lot of like interesting things of like what we're building with Masters of AI. Like if you've been joining or not, but like Masters of AI is not like a cheap curriculum because it's a full academy. But then we've been working hard with our team as well to like figuring out the best way to making it accessible as much as possible for like creatives that want to learn the system and being able to using it in their work. And so it's generating here. Same idea. You need to generate multiple stuff, because like, again, composition is like a little bit funny on this one. it's like a real live demo. I think this one is like pretty fire. Like, like just like these shots, we're going to talk after about like, what would be the step to like produce something like this. But as you can see here, like consistency of the model, the environment, the environment I generated with AI as well. And even here, I already have like different treatments, right? So I mean, different like time of the day. This one like looks a little bit fake, I think this one looks perfect. And then again, I'm not going to show you that right now, but like if I want to like just, kind of like push on her doing different action and everything, like that's totally doable. Have different angle, different point of view. Like I say, if I'm getting like 2 out of 8, I think it's a good ratio of like taking to the next phase. But one thing I wanted to show you, because I think it's kind of like cool to like pushing on like the brand element and direction, is like I actually created just this like location of like a Chanel like store in the desert with like the car. So like I generated this to just like being able to make like a real campaign on brand and showing you like how easy it is to like switch like the location and everything. So when people were like asking, like the question with like the client and everything, I don't think you should show up with like 15 options to present to your clients, but I think you have the opportunity to, really move like the different, like different territories, like, and explore different things that wouldn't have been possible before. You couldn't go to multiple locations on a shoot and like doing all these different things. And so in this case, there is this like famous art installation, I believe in Marfa, with like a Prada store in the middle of like the deserts that is really, really cool. And so, yeah, just like messing around with like this like reference in my mind, because I think, yeah, like Eric Brunetti, the founder of Fucked, mentioned me these things when I was interviewing him, maybe like 10 years ago when I was running a media as well. And so I thought it was like a really cool art installation. So anyway, just like generating this, making it Chanel, maybe Prada people will be mad, but I don't think it's actually owned by Prada. And anyway, just kind of like getting into like a different spot. And so now we're getting, all these different options as well. I'm going to select one here. I'm not done even in this like process. I think like the magic will happen at the last step. Sorry. Do you think that is already kind of like cool and impressive, or this is just like something that you saw a million times already and was super easy to accomplish? Let's go. Yeah, I agree. It's pretty wild. It's like back to the court. Like, look at this one, for example. So here is like, oh, I know what's the problem. So you see what is interesting is I did not update my prompts. So it's trying to put her into a gas station. So let's move this in front of an empty Chanel store in the middle of the desert. Just like this, like little like change, make everything, which is also very interesting to me because it's kind of like showcase like how it's not just like one element, right? There is like the ingredient, the input, the images, there is a system prompt. Obviously, there is the user input and kind of like all of these different things are like making the project work together. Let's see if we have like one that we want to select. You know what? I'm just gonna like rerun it to show you that I'm not full of shit. And then I'm gonna use like another one here. But let me show you. I have, here we go. I'm gonna use a model grid. Actually, I don't have 1 second. Just gonna wait for a second for the image to generate. Yeah, I think we're gonna wait. And how do you guys feel in terms of like accessibility? Like me personally, fucking like just like the effect here and the UX, but like UX, sorry, UI. But I know, a lot of creative like are not really used to like node based and the workflow. And we're seeing a lot of content where like people are actually making, things that looks, in my opinion, more complicated than they should. But like, how do you guys like feel with like, this is very different from like Photoshop and other software? Yeah, I agree. It's like it looks like Figma. I think that obviously like one of the main thing, right? They are trying to build, like the next generation Canva, and I think that's also like why we it resonates a lot with us because yeah, it do like looks like Canva, Figma. Oh my God, you can tell that I'm getting tired a little bit. Looks like Figma, and also what is really cool is like you can work in a team, right? So you can have multiple people accessing this, which is like pretty interesting. You can share it with your clients if that makes sense depending on the project, and the roadmap is like filled with like crazy updates. So in the coming months, it's going to be like really really exciting. So here we go. We have a couple. Which one are we gonna pick? This one is cool. We're kind of like missing the car in this one. Again, this is not like the final shot. I think this one give enough context for what next. So I'm gonna download this one, and you're gonna see what's gonna happen, and then I'm gonna show you, the output in big. But here, so I put back again the ingredient of the face of the model because that's usually where it's like a problem. And like, especially if you go to kind of like a full body shot and then you want to have some like close-ups and interesting element as well, you want to be sure that like the face is not lost within this process. And so let me see. All right, I'm going to use this one. Why is a PNG download? Good point. And they were actually shipping this feature very soon because we requested it to being able to like copy and pass from like one node to another node, like an image. Right now, you cannot do that. So you need to like, download and re-upload, or you need to like access it in your, like generation history. So you can see I've been like testing a lot of things here. It's like very good point, but very soon it's going to be covered. And so here, is what we call like multi-angle generation. And what it's going to do is like use our master prompt, and I can add more, like input. And we have actually different variation of this workflow. One that is like specifically on like building up like a storyboard. So like step-by-step storyboard that, you can present when you're pitching a film. We have another one that we call action progression. So it's like literally you take, like one image at one moment and it gives the description like what's happening. And basically you're going to generate like the frame, like every let's call it like 5 seconds or like 3 seconds, and give you a grid of like, this is like all the different steps. So like, of course here, like what could be interesting, maybe like the car is like coming in her direction and she's changing pose, but like that's another thing too, when you want to create this like start and end frame. Here, is really about just like, starting to like jamming on an editorial composition and recreating the experience of like the photographer is on the set. We have the model, we have the perfect weather condition, everything is awesome. We have the permit, we have, like everything is in place. And now, the photographer is like, shooting like different direction. And as you can see here, we have the consistency. We are basically creating like the entire photo shoot with like different, like angle and point of view. Not everything is happening like by magic, right? It's like everything is happening because of the system prompt and everything that is in place. But again, I think for like a very long time, I think I'm dragging the group. 1 second. Just gonna put it here so I can move in. For a very long time, like doing something like this, would have been like problematic. And so here we're generating the grid. That's another things too, for like the cost of like the amount of credit that you need to generate like 9 images. One images, you generate 9 images. And then from all these different shots, I can extract one and basically turn it into like a 4K image. I'm going to show you, I think we did 2K for this demo, but I'm going to show you the output and the selection. But like, look at here. There's like, we have like very interesting, like detail on the car, like detail on the face, on the model, like different camera angle. Sometimes it's just like, giving me like the first one here, it's like just like fucking crazy. It's not upscaled yet, it's like just like a grid, but just like these shots, right? Like, sure, you want to do it, like you need to have like a fucking lift on the set to being able to do that. Like the detail on the face, like everything has been refined. You get like very interesting stuff. We don't care about like the face being like mushy a little bit here because it's going to be fixed after that. All right. Before I show you like the final output and selection and how we turn them into motion, I think we can take like a few questions, just like talking about the workflow in general, going back. Sounds good?
I have one, you integrate a real model, and then you also integrate a real location. If you want to.
100%. So yeah, Ben was telling me that a lot of people are asking, can you use like a real model and a real location? 100%. Like literally, if you put here, you know, like the face, even like we've been like messing around on our side, like testing out, especially when we were working on like project like PSG or the Otani example I show you from the Dodgers. It's like, yeah, like you can use real person. And before, it would have been very challenging because you needed to make a photo shoot with this person, getting at least, 30 to 50 images, train a LoRa, and it spend, a lot of time on your local machine. Then seeing the output, testing out, maybe it didn't work. Then you need to go back and like try again. It's like here, everything I just show you, like can work with real person. Like, of course, the AI is like guessing like angles. So like if you use just one front face of a famous person, maybe their 3-4 head is like slightly different. But again, you can actually just use the grid directly. Like you can compose yourself like a grid or using different ingredient that works as well, with just like being sure that you have like different faces. The rule for consistency or like the main tips is like if you want to do Beyonce, like don't use like 3 images of Beyonce with like different haircut and different age and different, like makeup, right? Is like I've been seeing that a lot as well. People like seeing that like, it's like almost like in the Matrix style, like you put like all these different things and then the AI will like analyze and create this like new stuff. Like, no, it doesn't work this way. It's like if you want consistency, you need consistent input and good quality input. But again, what has been crazy to see in the past year alone is getting from like how difficult it was like to produce a perfect input to being able to do an AI pipeline to now being able to like, get there. You want to use an existing location. I actually didn't want to use this example for the demo because didn't want anyone to like, say bad things about me. At least, I hope that's not the case. But yeah, you can use an existing location. If you're a photographer yourself, I think there is like so much opportunity of like revisiting like your work and your style and just like taking it to the next level. Like I don't want to name them because I know quite a few photographers that are like pretty famous within their like community. And the minute they would post something that was AI generated in any way, I think they will face like massive backlash, which is like so stupid because again, we have Sam Hoffman. I can name him. I hope he's not going to be mad. He's an amazing still product photography, working beauty, fragrance for, like his whole career. It was like just like telling me when he joined Masters of AI that like one of the biggest challenge is he still want to do the craft. He still want to build the set and like the starting image, but his clients now, they're just like asking for like more output. Like there were more variation. There is more channels, like it's kind of like over the time where you can do like one shoot and you give, 10 images to your clients and that's it, right? And I don't think it's actually the most profitable business as well, because what is good now is like you can build like a recurring relationship, not just like retainer in the sense of like they're like stuck with you, but more in this idea about like, you provide the good shit and then you do it again and then you explore and the relation is like seamless. That's like a way to, in my opinion, like keep and grow the business in the future. All right. Should we take some question, Ben? Just going to take 2. They have to be quick and focus. Then I'm going to continue and showing you the output, Masters of AI, because I don't want my team to fire me as the boss of Masters of AI. And then we're going to take as much time as you want to answer all the questions. And I can go back in slide, can go back to the workflow, doing like all this good stuff. So yeah, let's just take 2 people. Okay, let me try to make sure. It's so annoying because oh, here we go. So you say Miles is at the top or, oh, I can find them, right? Miles Bennett? Yeah?
Built-in.
Oh, I don't see Miles Bennett. I don't see the Miles you're referring to.
MYLES, right at the top.
Say it again. Oh, yeah. Sorry, guys. Ben gonna come next to me. You see, you can be killing it with AI and being like so stupid with trying to get people on board on Zoom. Oh, here we go. Got it. Thank you, man. Okay, bring as a panelist. Hello to talk. What's up, Miles?
Hey, Ben,
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good. Where are you
Good.
calling from?
I'm calling from London. I'll keep this super brief. So I
Let's go.
joined your thing about 4 or 5 weeks ago,
Mhm.
and yeah, it just gave me a new energy of fire. I think for anyone that's looking to do this, 100% commit. It's definitely one of the best decisions I made. After
Thank you,
doing,
man.
after doing this course, basically, I got mid-journey. I created 7 brands in 7 days, put it out publicly, and then I started from zero. My Instagram's grown to over 1,000. In 4 weeks, I've worked with, 3, 4 different clients are all doing kind of AI work with me. My
Mhm.
background's branding, and I'm now moving on to like more complex platforms. So I'm now moving on to Weavy. What I'm
Mhm.
thinking, and the question I have for you is, I think for many people, first, it's a steep learning curve, but also
Yep.
it's expensive to do. This stuff
Mhm.
isn't cheap, particularly to learn. So what's the best way that we can be efficient as creators, first of all, with our budgets? And
Mhm.
secondly, I'm using Weavy. Higgs looks a little bit cheaper, a little bit more efficient. What
Mhm.
platforms are you recommending? Obviously, I see you using Flora. There's so many options.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think
Yeah,
for many,
it,
many,
it
how do we do this?
That's awesome, man. And I really appreciate it. And again, for everyone watching, you might not believe this, but this is not staged. It's like so
Oh
good
no,
that
no,
like
this
Miles
is not
coming
staged,
and
not staged.
always, amazing. I know, like students are like participating in this type of stuff, always, like amazing to hear. And the good news too is like, we all of this like recent update and everything we've been like cooking so hard to like deliver like the full 2026 curriculum, so like update on like the tools and the learning, but I'm going to share like a little bit more as well on the live programming. But to answer your question, I think the first part is like totally true, and I think not that many people talk about this. Again, I hope there is no one from Adobe watching me right now, but I would say when I started my career as a creative, like I was using like the license from my school, I would say, for all the time I was learning, and probably let's call it the first 5 years or 10 years of our studio, I don't think I paid for like a Adobe license to being able to use it, right? Which was, I think, like a huge stuff and massive for adoption, right? A lot of people can like learn the tool and they have this amazing programming and like discount when you're just starting and all these different things. When you think about like AI production, like this thing doesn't really exist anymore because, on one side you have the platform, right? Like platform like Flora, like, they need to like grow their business and they need to like pay all the engineers and all the product designers to being able to like make this a reality. But then on the other side there is a credit, right? There is the model, because every time you run a job, especially with Nano Banana Pro, it's like it's very expensive. It's like the 1K generation is around 10 cents, like 4K generation is 25 cents. So I think there is definitely a barrier to entry here. And my recommendation and how I started is like, I think when you're trying to like basically like vibe and define your style and building things, like I feel platform, like Midjourney that have like a lot of, like plan where you can generate a ton sheet, like learn like the right prompt, the vibe you want to create, all these different things, I think are still, like a very important option. And we use it a lot as well. And then the second part is like learning properly so you don't waste like credit when you're trying to achieve something, right? Because the
Yeah.
problem again, and that's kind of like one of the multiple value of Masters of AI is like we train people, especially with the update we're dropping right now, on like this is step by step all the shit that really matter that you need to use when and how to use it, and here are all the workflows that are already pre-built. Because as you can imagine, just generating like the grid face, right, is like it seems like nothing, but then we have to do it at some point, and we have to test, and we have to refine the prompt, and we have to burn on a lot of like credits to being able to have this like ready and available. So that's another thing, so that obviously I'm preaching for like more people to join Masters of AI, but I think like if you cannot join like a training like Masters of AI, I would recommend you try to like learn with like stuff that are less expensive than Nano Banana Pro, and then when you feel you're ready, then you get into it. But yeah, I mean that's so good to hear that you were able to like grow the audience, find clients. Like I think probably last year it was a lot about like the flexing of like, I can do cool shit with AI. And then everyone, most brand, most agency, to be fully transparent, I think they don't know much about, like they cannot make the difference between someone, being able to create cool images and someone being able to work on like a real campaign. So that was like last year. I think it was like a lot of opportunities there. I think now, at least from all the conversation I'm having, like 2026, a lot of brands and agency, they did like experiments with like freelancers and people they found on LinkedIn and stuff like that. I would say 80% of the time they didn't have the best outputs. And so now they realize that like AI is not going away. So everyone is still looking for like AI production, but they also understand that they just don't want only Midjourney artists. They want people that can create good world with Midjourney. I'm still using it a lot myself, but then also being able to like deliver on a brief. I think that's the most important stuff. But yeah, definitely like barrier to entry, which can be a challenge when you're just getting started, but can also mean that it like not everyone will be able to do it, right? Especially if they don't know what they are doing. I think they will give up pretty easily because it does cost money to like run through a lot of experimentation or like unpaid project.
Yeah, and I just want to say to the audience as well that are starting, one thing that worked for me was, AI enables you to do absolutely anything. And what I would suggest is stick to a brief. So if you're going to create something, maybe create 4 shots or 6 shots, define what those are, and don't deviate, because you'll start creating and then you'll be inspired to change the shots. Don't do that. Stick to 6 shots or 4 shots. Once you've done that, lock those shots in and then keep moving on, because otherwise you'll be in this loophole and you'll just get fatigued. And that's how you really build.
Exactly.
And me, that's what worked for me, was to create,
Mhm.
4, 5, 6 shots. Once they worked, I locked them in, didn't go backwards, and just moved on to the next brand. So, but yeah, Ben, thanks so much, man. This is
Thank you so
awesome.
much, Miles.
Everyone in the chat, love you, and yeah, peace.
Thank you. Peace. Take care, man. Okay, Ben. Which person we're taking next? Let's do one more question before I go. Anyone? Okay. 1 second. Put mice. Okay, so yeah. Let's see who we have here. Let's do David. David Asamoah. I'm gonna try to promote you. It's like it's moving too fast, guys. 1 second. Promote to panelist. Okay, let's see if this works. All right. What's up, David? I don't think AI is cheating. I think just like the next production. It's funny because Ben is here. Do you want to show your face to the people? This is Ben. This is a man. Don't break the lights. Shout out to him. And so one thing that is, give me 1 second, David, and I'm with you. One thing that is interesting is like, Ben is like obviously working on, Premiere, editing all of the video and all these different things. And it was like showing me like the, recent AI update and features they put in the software, how they make their life just like more easy, right? So like you still have the craft. I think, like people, of course, if you've been learning like a 3D Cinema 4D Blender for like years and know you feel that that might not be like the best decision career-wise, I can understand that you're being frustrated. But also, if you've been learning Blender for a while, there is like so many applications where you can use these skills to just like create like more outputs and doing stuff that would have taken weeks to render with like traditional 3D pipeline, doing like hybrid. So I cannot get into all the specific on this session, but like for motion, there is like so many opportunity that I feel if people start to be scared or just, like calling this like cheating and whatever, I can really understand that this is just like next level tools and capabilities. What's up, David? How are you?
Hi, I'm very good. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Of
So
course.
I'm from Ghana, Africa, and I've learned so much so far. And my question is, I have very little knowledge of AI, but
Mhm.
then whatever it is you just taught here, it's very insightful, and it's something I want to further learn more. And whatever it is you're doing is interesting. There's I'm interested, but it's like I have very little knowledge. And what are the tools, what are the resources I require to be able to be as effective as you are? Because then I saw the prompts you are inputting and all that, and I'm like, my mind was just blown away, you know? But it felt
Yeah.
like, how do I get there? You
Totally. I
understand?
mean, again, is like, I feel in life, right, there is like always, you put the time into something. And so for us, again, is like we're getting to this point because we've been like nerding out for like, 3 years, right? And it's been like moving very fast and sometimes it feel overwhelming. But again, when I started, like there is like no like documentation whatsoever. It was like a bunch of like obscure tutorial on YouTube and stuff like that. And some people were like starting to share. This is why I started Masters of AI, to be honest, is because all of my friends were like reaching out to me and asking me like, how do you prompt? How do you do this? How do you do that? And I was like,
Mhm.
okay, maybe at some point I'm going to try to like document all of this and like building like an academy and like sharing it, which I would share like more information after that. So I think like the two options are there, right? Is like now there is like platform like Masters of AI that kind of like allow you to just like learn quicker and get through the things and don't have to experiment with all the different platforms and all the different tools, because it's very use case oriented. Everything I build is, yes, I want to give my student like the landscape of like what is possible and what is available, and I want them to like develop their own style. But the thing is also, let's like you don't need to learn like stuff that are not going to be relevant for like what you're trying to do. Meaning in
Yeah.
like creative professional setup, if you don't have the capability to join a curriculum like Masters of AI, I feel that now there is like more and more content available that you can, get access to. It's just a little bit hard, I feel, to navigate through that because a lot of the people that do tutorial, like the biggest AI influencer, which I have like friends in it, so I'm not talking shit about them, but a lot of them are like, in the content and media business. They are not
Yeah.
in the education business, right? So like their goal is to be constantly covering the latest release, the latest model, the wow stuff, that not
Yeah.
necessarily like what you need to use, in your creative practice. And for us on the studio, we always have these things about there is a lot of workflow that we use for production. And so basically, I don't want to like a project come in and then we're gonna like do R&D on this project. I don't like that. I want
Mhm.
to being sure that when we sell a project to a client, I know exactly what we're going to be able to deliver, but then we still keep room for experimentation and just like testing stuff that, we might not have a client yet for this, but we
Mhm.
just want to like, stay curious. And yeah, so like to answer this quickly, and I know it's not, like the most creative answer is like, joining an academy like Masters of AI is definitely like a shortcut, but it come at a price because if you're not spending time on it, then you have a cost. And then the other way around is like you can, I feel, learn a lot by like testing and practicing.
Okay. All right. Thank you very
Awesome.
much.
Thank you,
All
David.
right.
Shout out
All right.
to Ghana, the people from all over the world. This is amazing. All right. I'm just going to go back to the presentation. 1 second. David, here we go. How are we feeling? You guys are still here, still motivated? Should I stop right now? Should we like continue? 2,000 people still here cranking. This is so cool. Dude, yeah. Like you tell me if in a couple of years I'm like Mr. Beast and I have like my show on like Amazon and everything, like getting 1,000 creative, like cranking on producing the most amazing company with AI. Yes, Ben? Yeah, should I? I mean, actually, that's a very good question because my son, but he's 10 years old, keep pushing me on like doing a live Twitch. Like, is this something that I should do? Like, or you guys are like, no, it's like to, yeah, like live Twitch. I think that could be so fun, to be honest. So like, here, like I say, was the first time showing kind of like the like one of the workflow. But I think a very long Twitch stream with like people like bouncing IDs and all these different things in real time, I think can be like really, really cool. Yeah, people, I'm not even on Twitch. I'm not even on Twitch either. I would have to like create an account and figuring out how this shit works. But that's good. I'm not the older guy in the studio, so I have younger folks that can, being sure that I'm not coming up as a boomer, which I'm not. I'm a millennial technically. Okay, let's continue this stuff. I need, sorry, to go back on sharing the right screen. And here we go. All right, boomer here. Let's go. Let's go. All right, so live demo. this is a couple of shots, like extracted from the workflow I just showed you. The thing that I didn't show you in the steps, were like some like editing, upscaling, and then being able to extract the frame. But it's just to kind of like showing you like how crazy it is, like the consistency, the vibe, and I didn't generating 2,000 images to do that, right? So literally what I showed you live is like probably I did that like once or twice for like each group and just like did the curation and having my shots. Here, some of the shots were just like very simple, like still to motion, right? So it's not edited, it's not a video. If we do that, we work with Ben and the rest of the team to making it fire. But when you think about just like this, like Jacquemus style of like a campaign and asset for like social media, paid and everything, like how good it can be elevated and just like a little bit of motion, like take the whole things to the next level. Oh, what's going on here? All right. This guy tried to go away. 1 second. Yeah, I'm just going to do this quickly because I think this one was fire. Here we go. So here you have like, again, different camera movements, like the face of the model is very consistent. If with video, it's still something that it works way better on like close up than like longer shot, but like, the technology is getting better. So I'm pretty sure very soon we're going to be able to do everything. Yes, this is using Kling as a model directly inside Flora. We have like a workflow entirely built that get, like your final images to video. So you don't waste credit and time and money on like generating everything in motion that was not like finalized yet. We also cover in Masters of AI how you can use Kling directly on the platform. So you have kind of like the two different approach. But to be honest, like Flora, everything in one place, taking the decision, like collab work, having the latest model. So if I want to test one of the shots with VO or with one, I don't need to kind of like switch a platform. I really feel that I'm doing like a full-on sales pitch. Weber, if you're watching this, you know who you can get as your next VP of sales when I'm retired. Just kidding. And here, like all the shots, again, the one on the right, I think is like mind blowing to me. It's almost like, like bending reality. Like this is like not like a logical movement, like the AI kind of like mess up, but like the fucking location and the car like going up and like this like distortion, like so cool. It's like that changing everything. Like the reality, if you work in like film production, like even music video or stuff like that, like time is so limited, resources are so limited. You have the talent, you have all this shit to deal with. So basically when you're getting on set, like you're trying to get as much as possible. And it's like basically problem solving on the go, right? It's like here, like you're in the comfort of your studio, you can still go outside to see the world, travel, go to exhibition and stuff like that. But it's just, it's like totally different approach, right? To like rendering, being sure that you can push the ID to and the storytelling wherever you want to go. So let's do like a little test from like everyone. If this wouldn't have been generated with AI, how much do you think would it cost? Not including the video, like the photo shoot. Like just like open to see kind of like what are people like expectation on something like this. But I think some people going like 500K. Yeah, nice. 40,000, 20,000. We have very low number, 2,000. I think the $2,000, you probably get it if the model is your friend, the photographer is your partner in life. You own the car and you live at the gas station. Like I think you can probably make it work for 2K. But if not, probably like not in this range. $1 million budget, like I mean that's the crazy thing. I'm not going to break down as $1 million campaign or like $500,000, but that's actually the reality of like for this like super high end like brand, right? Because like if you do a production for Chanel, right, like a full-on production, and I'm not saying that Chanel will ever like hire you to do like a full campaign with AI. They still want to shoot with Natalie Portman and Michel Gondry and A$AP Rocky and all this stuff, right? So but just like in the idea of like where the shit is going, there are $1 million production, right? Definitely, couple hundred of thousands, depending of like what you're doing, how many talents, how many location, and this type of stuff. So let's go. Yeah, exactly, 100%. Like, so I think I was like actually very gentle on the budget. So in this one, I put like, no celebrity, no exotic travel, meaning that you don't live too far from the location and meaning that you can produce this level of amazing photography without like a crazy crew. But again, if we look at kind of like what is including $10,000 for like the creative direction of the shoot, $15K for the photographer, like $8,000 for like the models and whatever talents like hair, makeup, and this type of stuff. Location and travel, like $7,000. Like I say, not crazy travel, but you probably need a permit. You need like a bunch of stuff if you want to don't go rogue. And the vast majority of like professional clients will don't allow you to just go and shoot in a random location without any sort of permits. Post-production, editing, technical, like the rest of like the fees and everything. Account steering is like basically the person in charge of the agency, like same thing, small agency, small studio, usually that like kind of like on the lower digit. If you work at like Avas or TBWA on one project, you can get like 10 account people, so they can really spend. So I would say again, this is like a range, but I do feel that production-wise, you're not working with like Michel Gondry or this type of stuff. You can probably get it within like the 30, 50K range, not the video including. And so this is when I do my smoothest transition to Masters of AI today. It's like, and I really hope next time we can have like, music and sound effects and everything. I think the biggest stuff is like AI changed like who on production. That's like a very thing that's probably like a 2 hours conversation again, but like before you have the creative agencies, the creative studio. So the creative agency come with, like the ideas, the strategy and everything. And then you need to basically, you have 20% that go to creative and 80% go to production, like roughly, right? And sorry if there is like production people on this call, but like, I think again, this part would be massively impacted. Like if your talent is to being able to like organize the talent schedule and the travel and the location scouting and all the different things, you probably want to like start to also figuring out what you will do next. And that's the thing that I feel is like very interesting is like now creative can own the production. If you're like a freelancer, if you're a studio, if you work in a brand, like you can be responsible for the production. So you don't need to go outside and deliver and ask someone else to do it. So what if instead of paying for production, you learn how to produce it yourself? This is not a ChatGPT punchline. This is like one I'm pretty proud about. So I hope you guys like it. So Masters of AI versus one campaign. This is when I'm going to give you the pitch for Masters of AI. Stay focused. Don't, be offended or anything. If it's not for you, it's totally fine. I really try for this like third webinar to like breaking down as much detail as possible. And also introducing like opportunities for like different people to join, not only on like the full academy offer, which I know is expensive for certain people, but also I do believe bring like the maximum value for the participants. So like we say, like a traditional production campaign, you spend between like 30, 50K, that can be 20, that can be 500. You do one campaign, you depend on the vendor, you have this like linear cost structure and basically it's repeating all the time. It's like every time you will do a new campaign, yes, you learn the process and the framework, but you're doing it again. When we were doing production before AI, we were spending most of our time there. We were just like, you do something, yes, you're getting better, you have more experience, you know what to do, but you never ever redo exactly the same campaign, right? So like all the variable change. So basically you spend most of your time dealing with like how I'm going to be able to put this project to the finish line for my clients. And Masters of AI, the full year academy is at 8,500 investments. And then what you learn, I'm going to give you all the details, is like the end-to-end AI production workflow. So like David asked, is like basically everything you need to know from like understanding the AI landscape, but more important, like how do you put this in practice? Like what are the workflow and how you are getting there? The in-house capability, this is something that, might sound weird because we run a studio, but I still believe that, brands like come to us when they need, like our creative direction, or they need some, like extra capabilities. And that's another thing too, which is like very unique with Masters of AI is like, the program is evolving as we discover and like learn new stuff. So like we're always pushing to the next frontier, and then we're like providing this learning to our students. And then you can reuse what you learn and what you invested across multiple campaigns. Because like I show you, it was like a very quick like demo, but like you can have multiple location, you can use multiple brands, you can use multiple models. Like you don't need to like, burn like more every time you're trying to produce a new campaign for your clients. All right. Before I'm getting there, like how many people I lost? Do you think it's crazy? Do you think it's worth like the investment? Like this is something I'm like generally asking because, there is always this thing about like expensive in comparison to what. I think the focus, like the way we set project to our clients, like specifically AI projects, we don't want them to look at us and asking like, how long are you working on the project? Because the question is like, now generating images is getting like faster and faster, but it's like almost like this like Picasso, quote is like, what you're paying me for is like the 3 last year of investment in R&D and like the 20 years before that of just, like learning my craft. So we always work on like this like value comparison instead of just being like, we're charging by the hour. I'm just curious here, like on this stuff, and that doesn't mean that is, if it's too expensive for you, like I can totally understand that. But just in terms of like value proposition, is like, does this land, does this make sense? Like I think Lao Tzu say, if you give people fish, they're gonna have to eat for one day. If you teach them how to fish, they're gonna have, food for their whole life. Is it making sense here or no? Yeah, exactly. I mean, the other thing stuff, which is like another like webinar, like entire webinar is like comparing this to like the cost of like a traditional academy or like college. I did class to a couple of university. I'm not going to name them. I was like blew away to see that like basically they're training kids that are not going to be equipped with like AI when they graduate, which is like another thing too, is like how to find the balance between sharing the content, and I'm going to explain what the program is about, and then also having like enough like live coaching and support. So it's not just like, like a prompt sheet that you receive. This is something that is like way more details than that. And hopefully, like Miles say, and I swear to God, it wasn't staged, like Miles showed up for me. It's always like the best testimonial. And I know the team is like always like mad at me because I'm kind of like not like trying to juice or not to juice, maybe bad metaphor, but getting more testimonial like this, we have a few. For me, is like that's always the best when we receive the message of like people either they find a new job or they keep their job or they were able to like launch their career as well. All right, why Masters of AI is not another course? So like I say, we have like the end-to-end campaign production. So basically you learn everything I presented to you, but like way more, right? Is like everything for image generation, product integration, video, like the whole things, right? And that's very detailed. And we just shipped, like the third iteration of the program. So as the AI evolve, we're like constantly updating the content, which sometimes is challenging, but also very important to know. In like 6 months from now, I think the landscape will be different. The second part is like the workflow. Like we build for Flora and Comfy UI more than like 25 workflow for like all the different steps. So you don't have to like spend time trying to crack the code or crack the formula on like, how do you do the system prompt or do you do these things? Like you get directly access to the workflow and you get the tutorial on like how to use it, when to use it. So you don't like spend time learning it on your own. And then the most important part and the most different is like the live production, the live classes and the practice. So the way we do this, and I'm trying to be as digest as possible, is for 2026, we are hosting campaign modules. So we have like 6 during the year. There are 6 weeks modules with 3 live classes running with me, and basically the entire students like work on like a specific topic, right? So that can be still product photography campaigns, that can be fashion editorial, that can be like series and fiction. So that kind of like, going across the time on top of like all the on-demand material where you learn the tools and you're like showed up to the class, like knowing what to do. So the live classes are like not about, Midjourney 101, is like, how do you take this to the next level? Then on top of that, we do professional practices. So there's a dedicated live session talking about, business positioning, all this good stuff. I know some people here like just like, I come for like the creative part and now Benny is talking money and dollar, it's like, that's the reality, right? Like you want to build a studio, you want to build a career, you need to be able to monetize it. And so same thing, having this like a moment where like I can share our own experience and recommendation, not just for everyone, but like for every stage, but like depending of like where you are within your career and your practice, I think is also very important. And then we do graduation and then we do other live event that I'm going to share very soon. We formed already over like 1,000 creative. from like the top company, but not only. So if you're not working for these brands, like don't be worried. We work with like a lot of freelancers, like a lot of people, they've been on production their whole life and now they want to launch their studio. So it's like, anyone creative professional. You don't sign up for Masters of AI if you want to learn like how to make like the next like AI slop sensation. That's totally fine. You can use actually the learning to do that, but that's not the focus. Creative professional, like ROI, like learning how to build something that will, repeat and like create value over time. And for me, I know that as a studio, we cannot work for like every single company out there. So when we teach, like e-commerce brand and, like product team, like there can be a team of like 2 or 3 people, we know we're not going to be able to help them with like e-com photo shoots. So like for us, them learning that is very valuable. And then we know that the entire ecosystem like want to hire talents that know how to use AI. This is like 2 great testimonial, 2 great story. So Nick, he wasn't the head of digital creation all his career. He was on the product design side of things, did the training, became like the AI person at ASOS, and then being promoted to this role. I think it's, very exciting if you're familiar with like retail and the entire ecosystem right now, like they're more like laying off people. So like knowing that like, students can like learn quickly, apply to the business, and being able to stay is great. No, Nick is not created with AI. You can look him up on LinkedIn. You can send him a DM. It's like a real person and be very open to share about his experience with us. And Valentin, I don't know if you guys saw the testimonial, but I tried to get like a video testimonial, which ended up in just like, me laughing so hard that I couldn't finish it. Mostly because he couldn't, like totally do the testimonial in English. So Valentin, if you are here, I love you, man, like big time. And that was very interesting because he ran a studio, on the brand marketing side. They do a lot of projects for tech company. They used to have to hire a photographer and videographer to being able to produce the content for like some projects. Now they're doing everything in-house, pretty much everything in-house, which is like mind-blowing to see because now they keep the budget. They don't have to like outsource to anyone else, and they have like better like creative direction and everything. All right. And one other thing which is good, and then I'm going to answer like as many questions as you guys have, is like in 2026, we're going live as well. Yes, there is like other course and curriculum online. For me, there is the 2 options for you to choose from. The first one is like you do like the Harvard or MIT training, which you're going to be trained by someone that's been working at IBM for like 50 years and never ever like work on like a campaign like this, which is like one way to do. I don't have anything against Harvard or this training, but that kind of like the thing I've been seeing. Or you can go for like the faceless, like you sign up, you get like prompt sheet, PDF. Some person can find values there. The biggest thing with Masters of AI is like, when you join, you have access to me, you have access to the team. And then in 2026, we're going live with like 2 events. The first one will be in Paris, June 19th. This is a location. This is not AI. This is where Yeezy did season 8 show. This is where Jacquemus did like an event recently. I think it was a tombola. And so again, we're like building this event to like getting, our student together, the industry, and just like getting together, because by the end of the day, like the community element is like super important. And so that's another thing that we're pushing. Like not only you will have to deal with my face and my broken English doing a lot of like the classes and the session, but you will also get to, see each other doing this type of like event, which was super exciting. Flora going to support us as well on this project, which is amazing, and like shout out to them. We're going to do New York too. This is not the location for New York. This is more images from Paris, but I don't have the venue yet for New York. We're working on it. The goal is to do Paris and New York, right? I'm based in New York. The studio is based in New York. A lot of the student is in America. We fucking love, like this city, the energy, but I'm French as well. A lot of like the, fashion and beauty, all this company like out there. So it's like always trying to having like, a foot on like both sides. And now that I kind of like anchor myself with such a crazy venue for Paris, I feel that we need to like deliver big time on New York. So we're going to share more update around that. We're still finalizing the details, but this is something that's going to be very excited in the summertime to having this like a moment where we celebrate the community and we get together when like the weather is better, because right now we are freezing in New York. So yeah, this one is like another one that I thought was cool. It's like, in a year, this will feel obvious, like all these things I think will like constantly to like, evolve. And I think it will be like mandatory for like every businesses, every company, every creative to be like up to date with a process. And I'm saying there is like only one way, but right now it's an invitation. And so, okay, like a few more things on like Masters of AI, how to apply before we go to the Q&A. So right now we still have, 1,500 people, which I think is great. I'm going to answer a lot of questions, but the thing for how to apply, stay focused, because that's the first time we're trying this like, new offer and proposition for the students to being able to make, this accessible for everyone and also tailored for like the team offering, because we've been doing training a lot of team as well on that work for brand and agencies. And so AI Master Program, this is the pricing. The first things on the full academy is like we're giving $1,000 off, to the participant of the webinar. That's not all, right? So, but that already kind of like an effort because you guys have been staying with me for more than 2 hours now. How many? An hour and a half? 2.5. Shit. Time fly. So yeah, that's the thing on like the full curriculum. You go to this link, you will have a conversation with someone from our team or enrollment team. This is not a scam. I can name all of them. You can talk to John, Dennis, Ryan, Tim. I really hope I'm not forgetting anyone. They're amazing. And their job is, yes, to grow the project because we want to make this, like the Harvard of tomorrow for like creativity. But the most important is like they're really spending time with like everyone to like understanding where you are, what do you stand, like, is it a good fit for you or not in the first place? So again, please don't spam and book their calendar for nothing, right? It's like we are giving you their time and our time to like doing this. So for like the full academy, I'm going to share the other option, but for this one, only book if you're serious, because like that's just like such a bummer. Like no one want to waste time on this. So like if you're serious, you click on this, you book a link. They're going to be amazing. If they're not amazing, you let me know, and I'm going to be sure they do better the next time. Just kidding. They're the one telling me how to do better every time. And like I said, that's also not all on the offering. There is like 2 things that we're doing, and then the $1,000 off is like still available. But since we launched this new version of the curriculum about 6 months ago, we've been only doing kind of like the full year academy, which include access to all the core recording, all the video, all the contents. We have the 12 months of like campaign modules and live class, the professional practice classes, the graduation and showcase experience. So like basically when we're going to do a campaign module in 2026, let's say we do like a fashion one, then we're going to have like one live class, which is going to be like pretty much the kickoff, the introduction and everything, setting everyone to like the right trajectory. Then we're going to have the second live class with time in between to complete works and lesson will be like, hands-on production, like making the campaign and like everyone going to be cranking on this. And then the final class will be a showcase, which is not just going to be me, but I'm going to bring like industry experts around the table. And so I don't necessarily going to bring like other AI people, but like mostly if we're doing a project around beauty, I'm going to take, like director, VP, C-level, marketers, communication, brand director from brands or agency to being able to see the work. Like this is something like really unique. I've been doing this last year by having all this live session when once a month I invite a guest. Now it's like fully integrated within the program. So we're going to have this. The first live practice starts January 27. So that's going to be like the first module. And then graduation certification and then 10,000 free credits thanks to our good friends at Flora. So every student that joined, like you get the 2,500s already, and you're going to get another 10,000. They're not going to, cover your entire need in production in your whole life, but like definitely, I wish I would have that when I was experimenting first. So all the students will get access to this. And then the second part that we are doing only for this month of January, this is like pretty much like a test to see like if that works, makes sense and everything, is to allowing people to sign up for just like a single campaign module. So instead of like the 8,500 and the discount, it's like 2,500. You get access to the core curriculum, you get access to the workflow, but it's going to be a 3 months access. We believe that in like less than 2 weeks, you can, complete all the different tutorial and being able to start like producing with confidence. And then you will have access to like one campaign module, which is 6 weeks with 3 live classes. So that kind of like pretty much it. You can use the same link to book the link. And you will see there is a drop down when you're booking the link, when you can say, okay, I'm interested for the full year academy, I'm interested for the single campaign module, or I'm interested for the team packages. I'm just going to go through the team packaging, and I swear I'm done. I'm just answering the question. Full team packaging. So that's the things, again, we've been working a lot with companies like Lacoste, Estee Lauder, and agencies on like teaching their team, like the way of doing things with Masters of AI. And pretty much we have like two elements. Like the first one is like similar as like individual license, but if you're taking like more license, you have like a better deal, which is, like very interesting and always like a good stuff. And then the more advanced plan, which is usually a good fit for like team at least of like 10 people, 10 to 20 people. The main difference here is like not only they get access to like everything, including in the full package, but I'm also consulting like the leadership team or kind of like the best approach to like implement like the AI workflow at the company level. And then we're building on like a dedicated custom campaign module. So let's just like say an example, if like, you're working for like Alexander McQueen and you want your full team to being able to learn and like, getting through the program, you get access to pretty much everything. But on top of that, we will do a dedicated campaign module for Alexander McQueen and this group, right? So that's something that we've been seeing a lot of success, because a lot of time when you're running a company, so you're not an individual, like you want like the adoption to like, move faster and starting to see results. So that's why we have these two elements. If you're working for companies or agency and you're interested in learning more about that, I feel that I already sharing so much information and I don't want to keep going. But again, best things to do, like you book a slot, you select that you're looking for like a team training, and if it doesn't work financially, you can always go to like the single option first. But at least like explore it, discuss with our team. They're going to be able to do like, in my opinion, a better job than me at kind of like sharing all the different details and answer this type of question. So that's it. You have the link. I'm going to take questions. So, how many people are still there? 1,200. That's all good. You guys are like done with it, or do you have questions? Do you want to continue? It's going to be like soon 3 hours. Yes, I'm seeing a lot about financing. Yes, there is like financing options, split payment, like all this stuff like available, like our enrollment team have all the details around it, but I didn't like cover it. But yeah, we do offer like this type of things. On the full year, there is like a 7 days like money back guarantee as well. In a sense of like if whatever happened in your life or you realize that you don't fucking, can handle my French accent for like more than like 5 minutes, then it's not like a scam, right? It's like we want people to join for the right reasons. We want people to get maximum value. I'm not teaching like how to get rich without trying or without working. Like really, like how do you learn these skills like very fast? Because I think the reality is like this is like moving super fast. Like it's not like something where you want to look back in 6 months and feeling that you're just getting started or still figuring out like which model and which platform you should use. I think this is expecting. We're seeing a lot of movement on the company side. I don't know if you guys saw, but like the CEO at L'Oreal Luxe like make like a public mention a couple of months ago that by the end of 2026, like 80% of the content will be AI generated. The reality is like, again, you can have the CEO making this type of claim. There is like nothing in place, yet in terms of like talents, in terms of workflow and structure, there is just like not enough. There's like a few agencies there, like including ourselves. This is not enough to support what's going on and how like all these companies are just like putting the trigger on it. Oh, sorry, I saw the 6th slide left. I thought that I was like done with this. Thank you for the heads up. So yeah, just to say on the call, I think I already said that. Make sure the program is the right fit for you. Share all course details and payment option. And this is not for everyone, but we can explore, like give you information about how you can get finance through your company as well. Because there is a lot of companies right now that have, like education, like budget and grant and stuff like that to help their employees to learn. So that's another thing too, that to be honest, the team know way more than myself on this. Erwan is checking on the water because my throat is super dry, but because I drink so much, I'm gonna have to do like a pee break, I think soon. Non-related, do you guys have heard about people going in Times Square for like New Year Eve? and like just like waiting like the entire day, and they wear diapers. Like I discovered that. I was like shocked. Like all the fuck is possible that like, adult grown up that don't have a reason to wear diapers will do it to stay in the cold in Times Square. That's totally true. So yeah, final before we get into the live Q&A, brands are ready, talent isn't. This is like so true. Like every single brand that I got to join me as like guests, and then all the consulting we're doing and everything, biggest challenge for everyone is like, Benny, who I need to hire. This is something that we're going to push hard on 2026 as well. That's why we're like adding the industry expert as well to join the showcases moment and graduation moment, because we want to build this ecosystem where like we feel confident that like, this is where companies should come when they're looking for talents. This is like a big project and big vision moving forward. This is just like a couple of like job offers that I screenshot that I'm getting, and honestly, I have like friends that are not necessarily as visible as myself. Like everyone is getting this type of stuff that used to be the compensation package you were getting if you were like an engineer, right? So it's kind of like crazy to think like creative being approached and being like, okay, we need someone that not only know how to use AI and everything, but honestly, most companies don't care about just like mid-journey flex. Like someone that can help like transform the business, like on the content is moving so fast. There is an images part, video is getting better. Like there is always like need for more content, because the reality is like the channels and the time we spend on social media and all these different things are just like making this like gigantic system that we need to feed with always more content. And I think AI is the opportunity to like really, taking this content and this storytelling, hopefully for the better, not like following the AI slop part. All right. Should we take question, Ben? Do you want to come next to me and help me with like the selection and everything, or I just take anyone that raised hand?
But
Yeah.
Questions people asking is that what is in master's course, like this video, does it do? So it does like you learn everything.
Exactly. So yeah, Ben was like telling me just to try to be more precise, because a lot of people are asking what is included inside Masters of AI. We're updating the full website, by the way, so it's going to be way more clear on all these different things. But like basically we have the core curriculum. The core curriculum is about 100 video that go from everything. From like, really like the mindset and like the world building and the creative direction with AI and like all these different things, and like the understanding the landscape of what's possible and how it works. Then we focus on like end-to-end campaign production, from like image generation, like sketch to render, scaling, consistency across like different territories, and really focusing on like showing multiple applications. So like not just like, one example and that's it. It's like, trying to be as like open as possible within, product photography, fashion, like series, but also commercial and all these different things. Then we do the all video. Then we cover as well the kind of like, like audio generation, VFX. Like I have, Ben as a guest on like a few of the lesson for like the editing part. This is not a course on like how to use Adobe Premiere, but like more showing the different option and example of like going, CapCut versus like the suite element and all this good stuff. So yeah, it's covering everything plus the business elements. So I'm seeing a lot of person on like the pricing question, retainer, all these different things. We have like a dedicated module that is like all about, like the positioning, the different options available, what you can do. I'm actually sometimes surprised, not in a bad way, but when I have students that, been creative their whole life, and now they're basically merging or evolving from being, working at an agency or a business, like being a freelance. So like you're also responsible for the money part, and they have like all the same question about like, how much do I charge? Like how much it is, like how do I do this with a client? So again, there is like many different ways to go around that, and I'm really trying to share like everything in the most like candid and transparent way, because I do think that is like important when you're joining Masters of AI. So we're covering all of this. I don't think I miss anything on the core curriculum. And then the core curriculum again is designed now so you learn the tools, the workflow, and everything. This is not, in 2 weeks, you're not like a master, right? But like in 2 weeks, you know how to do the things. And if you have like previous experience, usually like right away, you create like insane stuff. And then after that is like the live programming, which I think is like a huge part of the value, because this is when you have the opportunity to like put all your learning in practice and seeing like what the other students are doing. It's really cool because very diverse group of people. And so it's not just like one-on-one with me. It's like, yes, I'm involved and I'm answering, question. Usually they're like smaller group, like not thousands of people on the live. But definitely there is like the opportunity to like engage with your peer. And just like a lot of time we're hearing that, some people were like scared of like starting their own practice, and then through the Masters of AI programs they met this other person that just did it 3 months before them and share like how they were able to like get this going. So extremely valuable. And a big focus of mine 2026 and beyond is really to expanding beyond myself alone, right? So like still gonna be the one leading the whole things, but I also want to bring different perspective, like different creators, different like experts in their field, really to deliver like maximum value. Because honestly, I don't think there is like anything to compare available on the market, and that's what all our students are telling us. All right, let's take questions. So I'm going to try to take Lee Han, Chronister, from a two panelists. Here we go. All right, can you hear me, Lee Han? And I don't know why I put the H there.
Yes, good morning.
Oh, good morning. Oh, I think my AirPod died. That's totally fine. I can hear you. How are you doing? Oh, 1 second. I lost the audio. Give me 1 second. So weird. Can you talk? Can you hear me? Ben, can you hear me? But you cannot hear Leanne. Oh, I think connecting to audio. Okay, can you hear me? Okay. I'm sorry. I'm gonna go to Bima. No, now. Okay, Bima, can you hear me? Apparently, with a update for whatever webinar in the future, should be like more easy to manage, but let's see. Bima, can you hear me? All right. Okay, I'm gonna try go down, Ben, you say, right? It's like the latest. And like, let's try with Ross Copin. Ross, can you hear me?
Hello, yeah.
Hey, yeah, Ross, what's up?
Hi, how are you?
Good, and you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Yeah, I just so I'm a London-based designer basically. I just wanted to know what the best kind of I wanted to introduce AI into my work, but kind of wanted to know what's the best place to integrate it. So is it in the concept design or anything like that?
I think now we really reached the point where like you can do like end-to-end production, like every single steps with AI. The only thing that is like, still evolving and developing is like the motion part, like video. But honestly, like I think you can pretty much do everything, still images. You can do 80% of the work for like motion. And but then the only thing that I feel is not ready yet is like when you need in the piece of content you're working, like to have like proper acting and someone talking and this type of stuff. We've been seeing a lot of evolution in like motion control, so I don't think it will take too long for this to be like outdated conversation. But I think as of
Yeah.
right now, yeah, this is like probably like the limitation. And then of course, if on the like 3D side, you do like crazy advanced stuff, right? It's like sometimes we have clients that send us like references from like Tomorrow Bureau, for example. Like shout out to James if he's watching this. I mean, for me, these guys are like the Pixar or like the 3D motion commercial world, right? And there is no way you can do that in AI just yet, right? And it's probably going to take a minute to get there. So I think it's like always also like, what are you trying to produce, right? So if you want like something as advanced as like the ASAP Rocky latest video with like full camera control, all these different things. Like, no, you can do something with AI that's still going to be like good and valuable. And I think what is also important is like when you work on a project with a client for AI, is like you can set the expectation right. Because as a creative, I think we're a lot of the time problem solver, right? Is like, so even if the clients come up with like a reference that is like too crazy to do with AI, maybe we can take the script or the ID and like give like other like direction and opinion. So we can making this as an AI production, and then sometimes we just like walk away from the brief because it's just not possible at the moment. But again, it's like just like 2026 now is like I would say 80% you can do entirely with AI, which means that if you want just to using it as a concept development phase, you can do it as well. Like another stuff with like the sketch to render is like we were having a lot of conversation with people launching like products. And same thing before is like you need to like manufacture like your samples, all these different things to being able to make content around it, to being able to testing out. I had one of my guests, Tina, that she's like an amazing product engineer. She blew up on AI with like a series around like coffee machine, like super surreal coffee machine. And then what was
Yeah.
interesting is like she did that during her maternity leave. She started like sharing it on social, and then people just like loved it. But she had all the stuff before that didn't blow up as much. And then now she's actually manufacturing, exhibiting, selling this fucking coffee machine that started from, like Midjourney during a maternity leave.
That's so cool.
Yeah, that I think that's another thing too, which I think we're going to see more and more of like, now you can test a product, you can tell a story. Like, we have clients and students that work with like artists as well. Like just the idea of like now you don't need to like only limit to like making like a t-shirt and like even making like a cool like t-shirt drop. It's still like multiple
Yeah.
steps. And then now it's like, okay, just like testing out, run it. Maybe sometimes t-shirt is actually not the best medium. And I will say if you combine, like AI, what you can do with it, but also, like Alibaba and like all these platforms that make it like way more accessible to like finding vendors that can produce stuff, not necessarily with like massive minimum. I think it's also like something that I feel is pretty exciting for the whole creative community.
Yeah, like at the moment I'm kind of making these shoes that are upcycled from kind of old motorbike bits and things like that and using like racing culture things. But I'm really into making the products myself and like doing all that manufacturing, but I think I just want to find a new way to kind of showcase it and using AI instead of some of these 3D modeling softwares.
Totally. That's awesome, man. All right, let's stay in touch.
Thanks so
LinkedIn,
much.
Instagram. Great to meet you, Ross. I want to see some of these upcycling shoes.
I'll send it in now. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to take Joy. Joy, Cecile, can you hear me? Yep.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you great.
Oh my gosh, that was that was such a fast turnaround. Bonjour, bonsoir plutôt.
Bonsoir.
Thank you so much. This has been incredibly insightful. I'm a cinematographer, designer, and lighting director, working predominantly in film and just around like fashion, creatives, campaigns, branding, that sort of stuff. Um, I think especially with the way the industry has been going, I think I came to this more just sort of wanting to be a bit more open
Mhm.
and curious to how the workflow is because there are a lot of talks on things that you've mentioned like ownership on production,
Mhm.
for
Totally.
example. I think when it come one of my questions, I wrote a lot of things down, so
Mhm.
bear with me. I'm just gonna try to like summarize it. So it's less of a question, but more I'd be intrigued to hear your thoughts.
Mhm.
Um, so I think when we're talking about like I think there are general questions about like I think it's really cool to have AI as a tool where you are developing on your own images, for example.
Mhm.
Um, Especially for like the storyboarding sort of phase, pitching, like kind of just like development area.
Mhm.
I think when your quote of Gil de Toro,
Mhm.
a big part of that was the industry, even realizing now our industry is suffering, realizing like a lot of the shortcuts were made because practicals were kind of made to take a backseat. And so when you have the issue already where we had like people creating images based off of other images and so forth, this quite editorialized, polished look comes from somewhere, and it's a very specific reference and is a particular taste, right? So that's one of the things where I was sort of like, with people's approach to AI and feeling comfortable with AI, I think it's identifying that one, whereas like other programs, like whether it was Blender, whether it was Photoshop, whether it was all these different things that presented them as themselves as helpful tools, they each came alongside with their own aesthetic. So Photoshop had that whole era where everyone was like black and white photography with a pop of color, or like doing like crazy composites. 3D had its own very much like aesthetic. Where we find with AI in trying to replicate this high-end editorial effortlessness, you know, it's kind of, for me, in the way I look at our industry, it's like, one, if I am feeding my own images, who then would that essentially be training Flora's model? Because we are just generating.
So there is a few things, and sorry, I mean, it's very
No, that's
interesting.
it.
I think again, like still like need to get like few more people before we call it a
Of
day.
course.
But the thing, like on your point, I think there is like multiple things, right? But like the first one for me, when the reason like the Guillermo del Toro kind of like pissed me off a little bit is like when Guillermo del Toro or like the Breaking Bad director or like being very vocal like against AI. I think it's like a little bit like hypocrite, because then of course you're fucking Guillermo del Toro. You don't need to use AI in your production. Like you can literally do everything. That doesn't mean that the product and the outcome will be necessarily better. But then of course, you're already established and you're part of like this like Hollywood, like, like private club of like people that are doing things and can have, like millions of dollars of budget to produce feature film. I think when I look at, the accessibility for like creativity to like being able to tell story, I really think like AI again as like this, like a new democratization of like before, like, yes, now we all have like a camera in our phone, and we saw like a whole generation of like talented storytellers and creators being able to use an iPhone and don't need to have like a full-on production to do something. Like I feel AI again is just like the next like render tool, right? So it's like now you're going to be able to like tell a story because like you say, you're like a videographer, you have like all these skills and knowledge and everything. Now you're going to be able to like produce, which I think is amazing overall, because I feel we're going to start to see, like a more diversification of like who kind of like or the gatekeeper of the content, right? Is like we're working on short series. Like I don't need to get a deal with Netflix to being able to like produce my story. For me, I think it's amazing. I'm the generation that saw, the internet happening and the democratization of like information. You don't rely on traditional channels and all these different things. So that's like one side. The second part you mentioned is like pretty much like not like ripping off other people aesthetic and work and like doing it like the most ethic way. Same thing, that's kind of like hard to answer in like very short like 50 seconds, but the things for me is like if people are talking about what is getting inside the model, I think what is the most important is like what you're making with these models. Like the output is more important than the input, because even before AI, if you wanted to replicate someone else's look, you can do it. And no, like, spoiler alert, a lot of the time before AI, you work with the clients and they're going to give you references and they're like work of other people. And they're going to ask you like, can we make our film or photo shoot to looks like this one? And your role as a creative is to kind of like, okay, let's use this reference. Let's make something new from it. Same thing with AI. Like, I don't think this shit like change. And I actually do believe, like seriously, that when you make stuff with AI, maybe not now with Nano Banana Pro, but like that, not like how we use it. We rarely use Nano Banana Pro to kind of like generate like our first like image. Like here for the example was kind of like the ingredient all put together. But usually we use like other tool to like generate stuff that are not actually we cannot find anything similar on Pinterest or Cosmos on other platforms. So I think that, that's a lot there. I think like, yes, like creative has a responsibility to be ethic, like as ethic as they can, but also, just like rejecting like AI for like the Guillermo del Toro type of stuff. Like for me, it's because Guillermo del Toro don't actually understand, what are the steps and how you're going. And then also understanding that as more people will be able to do like cool e-com photo shoot, whatever, then us as creative will have a responsibility to just do like even better stuff, which at least on our studio, this is what we're trying to do like all the time is like, okay, now still images are like almost like old news. So like I'm teaching how people to do it, but it's like, me, I want to like focusing on like, can we do like a solid, 60-second, 90-second piece of content with like a strong storyline, full control, and someone looking at it and doesn't believe that this was, like not generated in a traditional way. So yeah, sorry, that was my long answer to your long question, and I
No, no
really hope
worries.
that
That's
give
perfect.
you context here.
No, I appreciate it. It was as like I said, it was less of a question and more curious to see
Totally, like
about your
yeah, what are my
influences.
2 cents on this?
Yeah, no, but thank you so much. I
Thank
really
you, Joy. Okay, I think I'm gonna try to take 2 more people, not because I'm too tired, but I'm gonna pee myself. Dude, like I really hope no one is like recording this. But it's been how long, Ben? 3 hours more? Dude, it's like my training for the live Twitch. We're gonna do 8 hours, so 24-hour stream. Okay, I'm gonna try to get Andre. Andre Calderon, what's up? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Very informative, very fun. Just a quick question. I'm an architect. I'm out here in LA. I've worked in New York. I've worked in Florida. I've worked private. I've worked public. I've been getting asked a lot of questions about, AI in construction, and that's a whole nother topic. But how do you see the blending of AI in other industries of the creative, right? So architecture is a little bit more technical, right? We're creating more than just a still image. However, a lot of what we do and sell starts with the first rendering, starts with that still image. Are there any programs that you see now or hear of? And then, what would be your foresight of it tapping into
Totally. I mean, that's a good one. So there is like few things again that are kind of like part of like the update and all the workflow we build with Flora. We did like a specific workflow that do like sketch to render and then full camera control over the render. And so I think for like, that works for product, but for architects, I think is like very important. I was kind of like messing around from like a sketch of like, just like a rough, like, interesting building to then generate like a Starbucks store in Kyoto and then having all the different views to then being able to like, put them together to create like exactly as like a 3D render. And so this stuff is like great because again, now we don't really need like an AI tool for architects. Like I think like, platform like Flora or Confi UI or just like this like Canva, where, as a creative, you can work there. And that's like another thing too that I always like is, Nick, for the testimonial I mentioned from ASOS, he told me that basically he was like on the product design team at first, right? So his focus was like making, like sketch and render and like all the different things. But now he started to use AI, and as a creative, now he's also doing the campaign, he's also doing, like the presentation and the motion and all the different things, which I think is like pretty interesting. Another use case that I didn't like tried like too much yet, but you talk about construction. I'm not an architect, right? So I'm not going to be able to tell you like if this is like really valuable yet. But for like my print in the studio, we're opening up a gallery space. And so I was looking at a bunch of different references of like Lightbox, like really nice Lightbox aluminum with like, a specific switch and all the different things. And then, so I have like the design that I really want. And then I started to talk with a vendor on Alibaba. And they were like, okay, can you send us like the technical file of it so we can give you the code, the measurement and everything. I took my like render and I put it and I asked, Gemini 3 first and then Nano Banana Pro to create like the technical file with all the measurement and all the technical information. Again, it's not like building a building or house, so probably like more layers. But then the output was like mind blowing because it gave me this like very clear sheet. And so to this partner in China, I was able to say, okay, this is how it should look when it's finished. So they have an idea. But then this is like the technical shit, which I would have been able to do it, but just would have taken me way more time to like research and like how do I call this like specific switch and how many voltage for America, like all this like little stuff. Now you can like use AI to do it, and that's why the workflow approach is very important, because like even in the workflow I showed you guys is like it's not just about image generation. There is a big part on the LLM, which is like the Gemini, the GPT of this world, that also, they are like your second brain, right? So they can like, create and describe better than what you would do and just like expand the capabilities. So I haven't tried the like take this image of a building and give me like the breakdown on like a technical standpoint of like what are the material, what are the things, but definitely something that is worth trying. And yeah, I think like AI is the future for like any type of stuff. And for me myself, being able to explore like video, animation, building object and everything. I don't have like a product engineering background. Now I'm able to take my idea to life in a very, like I would say, more efficient way, at least for like prototyping and just like quick turnaround.
Thank you. That was very informative. Yeah, I'll play around with it. I'm just now starting to break the surface, and
Awesome.
Between imaging and building and graphics, I'm excited for where it's going.
Okay, awesome, perfect. And yes, 3D printing, I saw a comment. We have 2 3D printers in the studio. We've been 3D printing a lot, from like AI to render to like prototype. So definitely something interesting. All right, I'm gonna take one more. I hope I didn't, I'm not confused, but Guillaume Grosset, probably a French dude here. I think I saw some funny comments. Maybe they had multiple Guillaume. What's up, Guillaume? Can you hear me? Are you French or no?
Yes. Bonjour, bonsoir. Comment ça va?
Bonsoir, la France. The final
Bonsoir,
question.
bonsoir.
Let's get it.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, so I'm gonna speak English. I have so many questions, to be honest. I'm like overhyped right now. I feel like I don't know how to describe it, but like 3 months ago, it was my first time in New York, and I feel like taking a slap on my face, and I feel I have the same sensation with this webinar, and I have a strong, powerful vision with that, and I think it's a key for me right now. If I let me break down quickly my background.
Let's go. Yeah, give me like, quick background, like who you are. Are you based in New York right now, or you were just visiting New York?
I was visiting New York for the first
Okay,
time.
awesome. So yeah, just like quick background, so I know, what do you do? Like try to like keep it as a
Yeah, sure. I'm gonna keep short. Yeah,
and
for
then
sure.
the question, like again, let's try to like don't ask 3 questions. Like yours the last one. So if we have like follow up, we can do it. And again, some of your comments make me laugh in the chat. So let's get do it.
Yeah. So my main background is like in sport marketing, and then I decided to change my career into product designs. So it's
Okay.
been like 1 year I'm in product design, and I'm also a student, also online, and I learned everything like in 1 year: sketching, rendering in Adobe, trying software 3D, Blender, Rhino, Normal Sculpt, and I also initiate myself in 3D printing. I got my own 3D printing, and I feel like everything is connected to AI. So I have my personal. I want to do my personal brand, accessories designs,
Yeah.
and I have so many questions, but I have one question. It's kind of tricky question, or maybe perhaps like daring question. I was wondering if you guys do like traineeship or internship monitoring, because I'm ready to give up everything in Paris to come over
And
to
come and move
Bangalore.
into the studio. And we're like expanding our studio. We just like signed for like a second unit, so that's gonna be a gallery space. The man, I appreciate the love and what like everything you say. Just before we talk the internship side, right? Is like being able to kind of like move from like your traditional background in marketing or like producer or like whatever, and then now being okay, I want to like design the product and take it to the next level. I'm seeing this like happening a lot, right? Which is like very
Yeah.
interesting, because again, before, like if you have like an idea and you want to launch a product or like a brand, like it was very hard to do it by yourself, and a lot of like upfront investment and this type of things, which I think now again is like you can still sketch and like design and doing all the different things. Then you can render with AI. Then you can put this into like, context. And then again, before you spend too much money on like prototyping sample and like something that people will don't care, then you can build your audience on social, like Tina that I mentioned with like the coffee machine project, and then you can test also with like a little bit of paid ads or like influencer, like all these different things. So I think this is like huge for like small business owner, like independent brand owners. Is like almost like changing the cycle of like before it's like you spend a lot of time like designing, producing, you get a ton sheet of stock, and then you figuring out marketing and you need to sell this inventory. Like I think now is like we're getting almost in this place where people are getting used to like the pre-order mechanism, or like to have to wait a little bit when it's like justified. I can show you here. Like this is like one of like our upcoming drop, but like the Cosmos Shogun, right? Is like this like
I
whole
like it.
thing like start from like a sketch and then a render, and then look, this is like final products, and then we're gonna do the release in like multiple sizing and all the different stuff. So that's very exciting because as a studio, like we're a team of 5 in total, but we can do stuff that previously you would have need like 15 or 20 people to do the same amount of project and output. So that's exciting. So I think this thing you should go for it. Internship. Right now, we're not taking interns. We're actually hiring people. I'm going to share like next week a couple of like job position, but to be fully transparent, we're like more looking to get a couple more like very senior like Avengers around the table. So like writer and creative director and like all these different things. So I'm going to share. But again, because we're taking this new space, but we have a lot of like setup to do. So probably a couple of months. Then maybe like if you reach out to us like in spring, maybe we'll have like opportunity to get like someone. But like in the current studio, we're just like it's a big studio, but because we're doing production and everything, we're kind of like at capacity, and now we're like expanding. But yeah, so not at the moment. Follow me on social media and like being sure you reach out again in a couple of months.
Yeah, sure. I already followed you, and I totally get it. Don't worry about that. Yeah, because also I already did a catch-up meeting with Tim. Tim.
Awesome. Yeah, he's the best.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't say
and
that the others are great too, but Tim is dope.
yeah. So yeah, I've been I'm also doing a catch-up just after this. But yeah,
Awesome.
it's really amazing that what we are capable of doing right now nowadays.
Exactly, and it's just getting started. So in like 6 months from now, I think it's gonna be like crazy, and that's kind of like sometimes it can be overwhelming, but to be honest, it's very exciting to like being part of this like evolution, right? Because when you're kind of like born like in a period where like things are kind of like standard, like even me, like when I started my first studio like 20 years ago, like yes, it was the beginning of social media, so it was still a place where like new medium, new format and everything, but a lot of like the agency brand relationship, they were pretty much set up, right? So it was very hard to like finding the clients. It took us a couple of years to get our first project with Nike, because again, how do you differentiate yourself when like the market is already pretty mature and saturated? And I think with AI right now is like almost like redistributing the cards. And same thing when if you're looking for a job, it's just like crazy to think that and I feel bad for like some of my friends that are like senior like art director and everything at agency that did the whole career, but like now it's like really because the rules entirely changed like very quickly. Like even like big agency, like they're not looking at like, oh, show me that you have this resume or like whatever diploma or anything. It's like, this is bullshit. Like I would not hire someone because they did like the most famous design school right now. It's like I want to hire people that have like a real connection with like what's going on, like the culture, why this is cool, why this is not cool, understanding all this stuff, and then demonstrate like curiosity, right? Is like also very important. Like same thing. I saw people asking like, do you hire from the course? Like, like I say, like anytime we have like an opportunity, we're sharing with our student first. So yes, 100% when we open a position, we're going to do it. 2026, all the work we put it into the curriculum is to being sure that all our students, like they get to like, experimenting to like, unstoppable, like very, very quickly. Because then when we have project, no matter if it's like a freelance position or like a full-time position, like we know we have like people that we train and they were able to like deliver on the highest standard. So yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna find a way to onboard this program. I don't know, no matter what, but yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Guillaume.
Yeah, if you
Thank
come by
you.
to Paris, come by to Nike
I
and
will
try.
let you know the event, June. You know, man, we're gonna
Yeah.
share more information very soon. I
Okay,
see you
perfect.
there.
Thank you. Appreciate
Take
it.
care, Guillaume. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. There is still 600 people with us right now, which is crazy. Thank you so much for staying. You know, I hope it's not the vast majority of like not takers, but I don't think so. Like, give me like a, yeah, let's go the chat. Let's see like making it blow. It was so cool. I think I'm gonna need 2 days to recover now from this session, but it was, you know, super exciting. I hope you got value. You know, no matter you join Masters of AI or not, you know, like, of course, this is a platform, but also I feel this is so important to have this type of conversation and like educate the whole space around it. So yeah, let's stay in touch. Thank you so much for tuning in. And hopefully I see you next month for another one. Maybe, maybe not. Like, be sure you follow us on all the social to stay up to date. Take care. Love. Thank you so much.